Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City of Rancho Mirage City Council meeting, which includes the Library Board, the Housing Authority Board, and the City Council representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency special meeting today, Tuesday, September 23rd, 2014, and it is 1 o'clock. So we will begin with Bruce Carey, who will lead us in the flag salute.
Place your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cindy, would you like to call roll next?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Hobart. Here. Councilmember Kite.
Here.
Councilmember Townsend.
Here.
Councilmember Weil.
Here.
And Mayor Smotrich.
Here. Thank you. And moving on to our presentations. And we have first on our list an update and report on the Palm Springs Unified School District by board member Sherry Stewart. And she'll be coming down to our podium here and give us a few words. Right here is perfect. Just pull the microphone towards you. And
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You all look very official. Officious. I just want to tell you it's a pleasure to come here today on behalf of the Palm Springs Unified School District and give you a little update. I want to thank you for the relationship that you have with our school district and that we have with you, and I appreciate you're always willing to listen and come out and root for our teams. So I know usually we go around and give these reports. They're usually around 20 minutes, and I know I was told to keep it to around 5, so I'm going to do my best, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about the school district, even though some of you might know a lot of the information I'm going to tell you. And then I'm going to focus on Rancho Mirage High School, because there's a lot of exciting things to tell you about Rancho Mirage High School. Our school district is comprised of 28 K-12 schools. We represent Cathedral City, Palm Springs, Rancho Mirage, and Thousand Palms. We have over 23,000 students that on any given day are trying to get to school at a certain time and get home from school. So sometimes it causes some traffic around the schools, but thank you very much for your help in alleviating the traffic around our schools. We have over 1,100 teachers, and we have 1,000 classified employees. So we are the largest employer in the West Valley. About 8 years ago, we passed a $516 million bond. This allows us to build new schools, purchase land to build future schools, and also renovate our schools. And I'm sure when you drive by our schools, you'll see that all of our schools are in top condition and they help the environment. We installed solar on 14 of our district sites. And a lot of people thought that we were doing this because we wanted to give shade to people parking in our parking lots, but obviously that was just one of the side benefits that the solar gave. The district will pay lower annual utility rates. For the next 20 years, our rates will not be raised at all, and we'll save an estimated $8 to $10 million because of the solar that we installed. And the district doesn't pay for this solar equipment, only for the energy that is produced. Now we've had, I'm sure all of you know that over the past 5 years, there have been many serious cuts to education. And our district was very, very conservative, and we managed to get through this crisis. And we did not have to lay off any teachers, we didn't have to have furlough days, and we kept most of our programs. And this was being through our ability to be so conservative and also proactive. Now, funding is improving, believe it or not, and the current projections for Palm Springs Unified School District with the local control funding formula is that we will have an increase in $87 million over the next 6 years. So it's going to be really important for the school district to manage this money, because we do not want to spend now, obviously, and not have any for the future. So we're working very hard in how to give back things that we had to cut with the serious crisis that we had. Now, I'm sure that you're aware that our high schools have comprehensive pathway programs and career academies. Each of our high schools has 2 of these, and the Rancho Mirage High School has the Performing Arts Academy, which houses the Galen Theater, and we also have a culinary arts pathway that I'm sure many of you have visited in the past. I'm going to focus a little bit now on Rancho Mirage High School. Ken wrote me this, in fact. You all know Ken Wagner. He sent it to me this morning. He says, could you please update the council? And I know he came here on his own and updated you in previous meetings. So year 2 at Rancho Mirage High School has begun, and it's off to an extremely busy start. This is Ken when he says we, but I'm going to say the school district. At Rancho Mirage High School, the school district has provided technology, 1,200 Chromebooks. So each of the students that attend Rancho Mirage High School has their own computer, and they are able to take it home with them. We call this 24/7 technology, where the kids could be on their own computer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if they choose. Nearly every teacher also has, all of the teachers do have computers, and nearly every teacher at Rancho Mirage High School operates a course website, and they use computers in their classroom continuously. Now, the Rancho Mirage Culinary Arts Pathway has doubled its staff and student training courses, and now has 250 students in the hospitality and kitchen field. So you can see we're training our future residents. All of our schools, when they graduate the high school, we would hope that our students are career or college ready. We understand that all of our students are not going to go to college, and it's important for them to know what career they want to go in and have a little experience working in that career at our high schools. And ultimately, we do hope that all of our students would go to college, so we want them to be prepared. One last thing, I wanted just to mention Common Core. I'm sure a lot of you heard it's a new buzzword, what Common Core is. And that's since 2010, 45 of the United States have adopted similar core standards, curriculum. So if you go to any school, in any grade, all of the students should be learning the same thing. So you could move from school to school, you could move from state to state, and hopefully your student would be at the same level throughout the Common Core curriculum. I'm going to stop. I could go on forever, but I know you have a large agenda, and I don't want to overstep my time. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
No, other than the fact, Sherry, we're very proud of the school district, and obviously the high school is a shining light for our community, and we thank you for all your effort.
Okay, well, thank you for your support and your understanding.
And we thank Sherry so much also for appearing. And just to let everyone know, we are also thrilled that Sherry is a member of our Rancho Mirage community. So that's good too. Anyway, moving on to non-agenda public comments. Do we have any? Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Non-agenda public comments is an opportunity for the public to speak on issues that are not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. So I will call up we have 3 speakers so far listed. One is Dottie Wilder. She's from Rancho Mirage, and come on down to our podium.
Good afternoon, Mayor
afternoon.
and council members. I'm here to ask about the survey that the city has done for the rents in Las Colinas, and timeline for giving the people affordable rates, 30% of their income, and the utility credit that they're supposed to be getting. Because every month that goes by, the people that are low income are charged more than the agreement says. There's several people from Las Colinas here today, so that are concerned about the issue. When I was asked to leave my apartment, I was told by the city that I could only stay an additional 2 weeks because there was someone moving in. The owner said someone was moving into my apartment. There's still no one living in my apartment, so he lied to the city, as he does to the renters. Also, there's nothing identifying Las Colinas as low income other than the city's website. When you drive into the complex, the only sign you see says luxury apartments. So I don't know how luxury apartments equate to low income, or how anyone would know that they're going into a low income to apply. And I think it should be run the way it was funded to run. And a lot of people would be very happy to see it done that way. So thank you for listening, and I'll let the other people speak.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now I will call on Kathleen Cruz.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
can we be brought up to date as to what the current status of the study is at Las Colinas?
Yes. And we're going to do that, but we have 3 speakers, so we thought we'd let the other 2 speakers speak first, and then we will have people up here address their issues. So the next one would be Kathleen Cruz.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathleen Cruz. I'm a former tenant of the Las Colinas apartment building, and when I moved in, I was not of low income, just moved in with the idea of paying a decent rent. One of my major complaints about Las Colinas, several, and I know that you have already been addressing much of it, but I'm just going to add, the manager there named Pat Stamper is very unprofessional and rude behavior ever since the beginning. And she harasses and intimidates many of us, and watching every car and just giving you horrible looks and comments rather than coming to you personally. She serves 3-day notices when she wants to tell you she feels like you're not doing the right thing or you're going against your lease. So I was intimidated a lot while I was there. I had knee surgery and had to have some family come to help me out while I was recuperating, and she harassed everyone that came. My daughter had a dog. She came and told us we had to get rid of him. We got rid of the dog, and the dog was killed the next day by a car at a friend's house. And it was very frustrating and sad how we were treated. When I was ready to move, before I moved, I was considering moving because I was going into retirement and I would be in a lower income. So I said, would you consider my fact that I'm in a lower income in retirement to subsidize my rent? She says, oh, we don't do that here. So I knew of some people that were in the lower income, and she said, oh, there's only a few, and they never move. So she just bluffed it off for me right away. So I was already on the list for Whispering Waters and a couple other places here, and luckily I did get to move into Whispering Waters. However, I did want to coordinate with the others with the terrible charges. When I moved out, she charged me $1,700 because I told her that there was a stain on the carpet I was willing to pay for. Then she listed all kinds of things that were just unbelievable.
Ms. Cruz, if you could just kind of start to wind it up a little bit.
Yes,
We're
I
reaching
will.
the end of the 3 minutes.
I ended up settling in court, but I just want to add to the problems of the Las Colinas management and the way they're running it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. Okay. The next speaker will be Vonda Ray Scott.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'm a resident of Las Colinas, and I'm speaking for Carol Slagle and Carol.
Can you speak into the microphone if you're going to be?
I'm speaking for Carol Slagle and for Carol Schiffler and myself today. We have all been abused, bullied, harassed, intimidated, and threatened by Pat Stamper. Carol Slagle's bathroom overflowed on a Friday afternoon after the handyman had gone home. She called Pat, and Pat said, "You have to wait." She then went down to her neighbor. She went to the neighbor's, Carol Schiffler's, and called her again and said, "I'm going to call a plumber." She said, "No, you wait until Daryl comes back on Monday." This has happened 3 times. She told her to go outside to the bathrooms. So for 2 days, she had to go to the outside bathrooms or to the rec room, which is a half a block away from our building. And so now she's in a position where it has never really been fixed, only snake, and it's going to run over more. I mean, it starts to run over. Now Daryl, the handyman, brought her a plunger to do it herself. She's 79, she's sick, and this plunger is really too hard for her. So this is how she's living. Carol Schiffler was given a new addendum. Pat has added one addendum after the other to our lease. And this one is to get Carol Schiffler's son, Michael Azzarella, to sign and subsidize for Carol's rent. He is not on her lease. She's been there over 4 years and always paid on time. She also backdated, I have copies of this, she backdated it to April 1st, 2012. This is 2014, and this was given about a month ago.
Could you kind of start winding it up also?
Myself, I'm living without a stove. It was going to blow up, and there's too many things to address right now in 3 minutes. But I'm living without a stove. I'm cooking on a hot plate, and another lady is without an oven. There's no rest. There's no peace. She's at us like this. She has charged me like this, threatening me. I'm sorry, but she should not be there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. Okay, as long as that's the end of the 3 people that we had submitted yellow papers, if there's anyone else in the audience that would like to speak that did not submit a yellow card, okay, seeing none, maybe we could move on to the comments from Steve and from Randy.
Sure, Madam Mayor, the apartment complex is not owned by the city. It's not one of the city's affordable housing projects. I do know the apartment owner, Michael Kiner, and I will call him as soon as this meeting's over to talk to him about the behavior of the manager at the complex. We've had similar situation with our code compliance officer, so I understand that firsthand. And we have your information here. Once I talk to him and we can get this squared away, I'll give you a call back and let you know the status. In the meanwhile, I would like Sean Smith or Steve Quintanilla to talk about the rent levels, as Dottie had brought up, the first speaker, and have him address whether or not the rents being charged are in compliance with the city's operating agreement with the developer.
I'll go ahead and start, and then Sean has something to show on the screen overhead. We did have a meeting with Ms. Wilder when she first came to us with her concerns about being evicted, and we did learn that she was evicted. Mr. Binder was able to contact Mr. Kinder, the property owner, and convince him to provide her with an additional 2 weeks, which she declined. I understand that Ms. Wilder also took her case to the Fair Housing Council, Riverside County, and I have not heard from them. Last I heard, there's still a decision pending, but I don't know how far they'll go with this now that she's out of the complex. But the Housing Authority has an agreement with the current owner, and that agreement is called an owner's participation agreement. And we're obligated under the law to enter into an agreement with any property owner that receives any assistance, financial assistance from the city for affordable housing. And so we have such an agreement in place. It's been in place for quite a while. And so our obligation under the law is to monitor and enforce the affordability restrictions that are imposed on that particular complex. And those affordability provisions have been set forth in the agreement since day one, and we just recently conducted a survey or an audit to determine whether or not they are in compliance. And so I would ask now that Sean, our housing manager, come forward and just kind of go over the results of that survey.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Sean Smith, Economic Development and Housing Manager for the City of Rancho Mirage. As Mr. Quintanilla pointed out, we did conduct a survey in compliance with our owner participation agreement late summer. We received the results of that survey, which are posted on the PowerPoint presentation slide above on the screen. The monthly maximum rent levels that are shown on that slide are the ones that are dictated by virtue of the median income thresholds for the County of Riverside and established for this location. What we found essentially is that the project is in compliance within those income thresholds. There are 2 units that should be in the very low category that exceed those maximum thresholds, but all of the other 82 units are within the income thresholds established. So for us at this point in time, while there are a couple of outstanding questions that remain in need of answering, from our standpoint, based on the information we received from a survey sent directly to the residents of the project is in compliance.
Thank you very much, Sean. Any questions from council members?
Sean, when we've met on this item several times, and there seems to be a question as to what the rent should be from the people who are there. Are you saying that the survey now indicates that everybody is at the correct rent? And also, do they, one of the ladies mentioned rebates for health care or a prescription rebate. Are they entitled to such a rebate?
No, it's my understanding there would be no prescription or health care rebates. There is a portion of the agreement which calls for utility allowance, and that's one of the outstanding questions. If we look at just the rents that were reported on the surveys, those all fall within the thresholds established. So those are all in compliance. We do need to take a look at the utility allowances because we're not quite certain that the ones that they're providing to the tenants are the ones that we've identified in our agreement. And there's a current coordination occurring between Steve's office and myself to answer that question. So I don't have the answer relative to the allowances at this point.
Have we gone back to the various tenants and let them know what their rent should be and what they're paying?
Well, at this point, all of the rents that were reported are within the permissible amounts.
Well,
so there would be none.
We have 6 people here today who are all saying that they're not paying the correct amount.
We sent the survey to individual residents, and those individual residents, what they sent back to us is what we're reporting in the survey results, in addition to the ones that did.
Maybe we should sit down with each one of them individually and let them know what their rent should be and what they're paying so they have a clear understanding of that.
That may be problematic to some degree because they don't follow the same formula for indicating the rent as we do for our housing authority projects. All that we're responsible for is making sure that their rent levels are within the permissible thresholds. And based on the information we received, they all are within those thresholds.
Okay. Well, I'm not questioning that. I would just think it would be helpful if we were able to sit down with each one of them and clarify the current rent that they're paying.
Any of them that have a question outstanding, I'd be happy to do that with.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
I should also point out that during this survey, it was discovered that some of the renters actually have incomes that are higher than they should be.
That's correct, and that's one of the other issues. However, there's a clause in the agreement and in the CC&Rs that indicates that any unit that's been available for 30 days or more may be rented out to somebody that does not qualify under those income thresholds. And that may be the reason for that. Those same people, though, are still paying rent within the low affordable income thresholds. So they're not being charged more.
And
If I may suggest, I would think it's a good idea if you and Richard meet with these ladies, sit down, hear what they have to say and how they present it, and do the best we can to all get on the same page. Because when you're talking, heads are shaking no. So I think we can solve the problem, and Richard and you have been dealing with it, and I think it's an important issue. I would certainly suggest you try to put together a meeting as quickly as possible.
And we can do that with any additional residents that may have a question as well.
Right, anybody
Sure.
else? Sure.
And I would suggest, too, that we provide the residents with information about the Fair Housing Council, Riverside County. That is a nonprofit organization that contracts with the county and provides services to residents throughout Riverside County. And they provide services in connection with anti-discrimination claims, any landlord-tenant disputes, and even one-on-one counseling. And they're able to provide you with information about your rights as a tenant. With respect to our jurisdiction is limited to the rent amounts. They have an office in Palm Springs. The phone number is 760-864-1541. That's 864-1541. Or you can call 800 number at 655-1541. That's 655-1541, in case anybody out there is watching. And they will meet with you only by appointment Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But if anybody has any concerns about anything that has to do with your landlord, I encourage you to contact them first.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you.
Randy,
All right, so we will-
it may also be useful, since there were several comments about the property manager,
Yes.
that we sit down and discuss that with the property owner and
Yes.
try and resolve those issues.
Absolutely, Councilman. I'll call him this afternoon, especially on the toilet and the stove issues.
Well,
Certainly.
That's something that you can all talk about with Richard and with Sean and the committee of people that you want to bring to this meeting and discuss all the issues that are very troubling to you. Okay. All right, I believe council, the public comments are closed for now. So we will be moving on to city council board member comments. And anyone would like to go?
I'd be glad to go.
Okay.
I want to introduce people to Nate. JJ, it's nice to see you again and have you back here. I know you've been working hard. While I'm showing people Nate, why don't you tell people about how Nate can be rescued, adopted, and other dogs that your group is taking care of and have available for the public.
Like Nate, many of our dogs are rescued from the shelters. They come from the streets. Wherever they're wanted, we want them, and we give them the best veterinary care we can, the best care, the best love. They stay in foster homes. Nate was in the shelter. He's was going to be euthanized for this behavior. They considered him non-adoptable. He's a wonderful puppy. He's about 7 months old. He's neutered, microchipped, fully vaccinated, dewormed, and we actually go over and we do the coronavirus vaccination now. You can visit us online at banditsresort.org. You can also call us at 760-285-9532, 760-285-9532. He is still very much a puppy. He would do best in maybe a home where you're active, run, maybe a little bit of obedience training. He's more on the lab side, which is the playfulness. He's just a wonderful dog. He's been with us for several months, and we're still trying to find him a home.
I wanted to hold Nate so that people could see. I mean, he is obviously a larger dog than we usually have. I just wanted to demonstrate that Nate is another one of the dogs that will put a lot of loving into your life. And if you're a little bit stronger than what's necessary for the smaller dogs, Nate is one great dog. You know, all he needs is a little training, and he'll be a wonderful guy. So, JJ, thank you for bringing Nate. Keep up the good work. We appreciate everything you do. And I'd like to remind everybody that in Rancho Mirage, we pay for up to $100 toward the cost of every adoption. And we're going to be adding to the things that we provide. If it passes this afternoon in a few minutes, I know you have to go, but call me and I'll tell you about the new things that we are providing for animal owners in the event it passes. So again, thank you very much, JJ.
Thank you so much, JJ. And Dana, and it's such a shame that Dana already has 3 loving dogs, because obviously there's a great desire here to go home with Dana and Vicky. So I don't think it's going to happen right now, but whenever a new dog comes up here and takes our hearts, we all realize how important having a loving animal in our home is. And if you can do it, if you can have some space and adopt a pet, they are certainly a loving addition to your home. So thank you. Okay, moving on now. I believe Ted has something for council
No,
comments.
unless you want me to introduce my guest now.
Sure.
Eric Ornelas, would you want to wander down? While you're wandering down, I'll give you a flowery introduction. Eric is the Communication and Public Affairs Assistant at the Annenberg Retreat at Sunnylands. We welcome Eric, who has succeeded an icon, Mary Perry, who was in the position for many years. I'm sure, Eric, you'll establish your own identity that we look forward to, and regular updates as far as events at Sunnylands is concerned. You know, many residents are unaware that the activities at Sunnylands are available to the public. We're privileged to have this magnificent asset, and the publicity surrounding the presidents and dignitaries creates the impression that Sunnylands is off limits to the general public. And of course, as we know, that could not be further from the truth. And you'll hear regularly as to the events that are available to the public. And Eric, we thank you for joining us, and we welcome you and look forward to many other appearances.
Thank you very much, Councilman Weil. Good afternoon, Mayor Smotrich, council members, and staff. Of course, you're absolutely right. Sunnylands is a community resource. We are here. We invite the community. And the last time we were here, myself and Jeffrey Baum, our communications director at Sunnylands, was here describing our, at that time, upcoming olive harvest, very first olive harvest at Sunnylands, which is now officially in the books as being a great success. And what I brought for you today is a short video to show you exactly what happened at Sunnylands on that day. Hi, Eric Ornelas here for the Annenberg Retreat at Sunnylands, and today our very first olive harvest is underway. On Saturday, September 13th, dozens of community members joined Sunnylands staff on the grounds of the historic estate to pick olives.
It's a beautiful morning. You get to be on this lovely property and meet fun people.
About 19 of our grants workers volunteered on there. This is usually their day off to come in and work, as well as staff from all the different departments came out, so that was fun too.
More than 600 olive trees were planted at Sunnylands in the 1960s, but they were never allowed to fruit until now. Today, with an eye towards environmental sustainability, Sunnylands is studying ways to harvest the olives for olive oil.
So I don't think we're going to have any trouble filling the buckets.
No, that's great.
We're walking in, there were the olive trees, but then people were kind of looking around like, oh my God, because there's not a lot of people who get to see this, And sometimes, as working here, you kind of almost like lose the sense of awe just because you're here every day, but then you see when other people come in, it's just like, it's like the first time, we came in and we saw it. It is amazing.
tree trimmers were on hand to cut branches off the trees and laid them onto tarps where participants could easily reach the fruit. The olives were loaded into buckets and trucked to the processing facility.
We heard about the olive festival, so we came out here and we really enjoyed it.
This first harvest was limited to a small test section of about 50 trees. Sunnylands hopes to expand the olive oil program next year. Look for Sunnylands olive oil in the gift shop this fall at Sunnylands Center and Gardens. For more information on the Sunnylands olive oil program, visit sunnylands.org.
Do you think that Leonore and Walter Annenberg could ever have envisioned this use?
No, but they would be thrilled. And I strongly believe they're looking down at us, so they would be ecstatic because this is more than they could have imagined.
Great. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
So as you can see, it was a big hit with the community, and we truly appreciate the support that we've received from the city and from the community, and we hope to continue events like this and many others. And of course, as you know, we've been closed over the summer, and we are reopening to the public this Thursday at 9 a.m. We will be open free of charge. Sunnyland Center and Gardens will be open free of charge Thursday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the tours are now back on sale. You can find tickets for those on the website. I brought each of you one of our new calendar guides for October. So that you can see what is coming up on our calendar. And our next event is Films on the Great Lawn. We'll be showing some Alfred Hitchcock films. The next one is Rear Window on October 3rd, which is a Friday at 7 p.m. And I hope to see you all there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
And Eric, did you mention when the olive oil would be available?
Oh, I'm sorry?
Did you happen to mention when the olive oil would be available for purchase?
Sometime in the fall. We don't actually have a date yet, but we expect it to be in the gift shop by the holidays.
Okay. I'm sure it'll be very popular. Thank you so much. Okay. Charlie, did you have any comments?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay. And Richard, you're up. Okay. All right. Well, I had a couple of comments. The first one is regarding the mayor's message, and that goes out usually twice monthly, and most people are receiving it. But since the very first bi-monthly mayor's message went out to residents on May 29th, the positive response from residents has been tremendous. The last message sent out on September 16th, 2014 was opened by 2,005 residents, which is almost unheard of. My goal with the mayor's message is to ensure that all residents of our beautiful city are made aware of all the wonderful things that Rancho Mirage has to offer. Some of my past messages have included Rancho Mirage Television, which is shown on Channel 17 in Rancho Mirage, the importance of CERT training and where to sign up for classes, the Jocelyn Center and the services they provide for our 50-plus community, and finally, the Braille Institute, which, by the way, was chosen by the Parks and Recreation Commission as the beneficiary of this year's Art Affair grant of $2,000. I have some very exciting and informational ideas for up-and-coming messages, and I certainly can't wait to share them all with you. If you would like to receive the mayor's message, you can sign up by going to the homepage on the city's website at www.ranchomirage.gov. At the very bottom of that page, you will see the Subscribe To section. Simply fill out your name and email address and click Mayor's Message box. And if, however, you need assistance with this process, please don't hesitate to call Lori LaFond or email her in the marketing department at lori@ranchomirage.gov, or just give her a call at City Hall at 760-324-4511, extension 218, and she will be most delighted to help. I would just like to say also that the city's refreshed website has become a really great communication tool for Rancho Mirage. And in fact, since the beginning of this fiscal year, the website has been visited by over 17,000 people, and 60% of those people were new visitors. That's a lot of exposure for our city, and whether those people are coming to our website to do business or find out about where to stay, where to eat, or play in Rancho Mirage, it's putting Rancho Mirage out there for everyone to experience. So don't hesitate to jump onto our website. It's full of all kinds of interesting information, and I know you'll get a real kick out of all the attractive features that we offer. One last thing that I want to mention, because this is something that I've really been working hard with, it is the closed captioning and live meetings. And as most of you know, I am an advocate for Americans with Disabilities Act. That ensures that the city of Rancho Mirage is compliant. And on that note, I am happy to report that the city of Rancho Mirage is the first city in the desert to deliver live city council meetings with closed captioning. This gives our hearing impaired residents the ability to follow city council discussions as they happen. Streaming captioning allows the hearing impaired to read the discussion in real time on compatible mobile devices. In addition, the system improves the city's communication capabilities by streaming meetings live over the internet. This means that the city council meetings can be viewed live by snowbirds from their summer homes anywhere in the world, as well as Rancho Mirage residents from their homes or offices in real time, also at www.ranchomirage.ca.gov/live. This new system meets the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA standards for accessibility for the deaf and the hard of hearing community. And a very special thanks goes out to our entire IT department who have been working diligently with Cencor as well as US Captioning as technology partners to make this all very possible. We are delighted to be taking one more step on the path to make city services and programs fully accessible to disabled residents and all others as well. In fact, I am very proud that I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to gather a group of people together for our first meeting, which will be held in October, which is also the official ADA Recognition Month. And our new task force will consist of representatives from the Braille Institute, the hearing impaired community, as well as people who have worked diligently with developmentally challenged members of our Coachella Valley at large. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart, to reach out to people who are of special needs, that we can do whatever possible to make their lives a little easier and bring them into our community a lot more. Thank you so much. So, moving on to the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion?
Move approval of the minutes for August 28th.
I second it.
Okay. Please vote.
Mayor, my machine's not working properly. Could we try that vote again? Did everybody try your votes for me one more time? Thank you.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar, and Randy will be taking care of this, but I know that we are going to be pulling a couple of items, and Bruce Harry is going to be handling those, and they will be items number 3, 4, 5, and 6, and if there's anything else that the council would like to pull, or anyone in the watching audience would like to pull, now would be a time to let us know.
Could you add number 2, please?
Okay, we will be pulling number 2 also. Okay, so Randy, will you please fill us in?
Yes. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, good afternoon. So we'll pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if we can pull number 9, I'll make a presentation then on 1, 7, 8, 10, and 11. Okay, item number 1 is to waive full reading of all the ordinances that are introduced or adopted pursuant to today's agenda. Item number 2 is second reading on the Retail Center Security Ordinance, amendment to Title 8 of the Rancho Mirage Municipal Code. Item number 7 is approval of final track map 34640-1 for New Age Rancho Mirage LLC, the Ritz-Carlton. Item number 8 is an addendum to the 9th Amendment to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Development Agreement. And item number 10 is approval of contracts, and item number 11 are your demands. I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, well, in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and have someone make a motion to approve the items that Randy mentioned.
Move approval of items 1, 7, 8, 10, and 11.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your vote.
Councilmember Kite, could you press your vote? Thank you.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead, Randy, and you can tell us who's going to handle what.
So item number 2, thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 2 is second reading for the retail center security requirements, but I think Councilman Richard Kite asked for that to be pulled.
Yes.
Randy, I may have missed some of these items the first time it went around, so when I was looking at the item for today, I just had a couple of questions regarding the security issue. And I don't know whether Sean is working on this or whether you were, Randy, but I just had a couple of questions.
Okay.
First of all, this ordinance is being put in effect for something that's new, ongoing. I mean, was there an issue that was brought up to us that required this new ordinance?
We were made aware that it's possible that the river might be cutting back on their security, and because it's our largest retail center, we wanted to make sure that we had an ordinance in place that required on-site security for large commercial centers.
Have we met with the owners of the river?
We've actually reached out to them, but have not been able to have a meeting yet.
Okay. I guess that question deals with the ordinance itself and whether they would approve the ordinance or whether they thought it would meet their requirements or whether we were asking them to do something that they were presently not doing.
Sure. The ordinance actually just reflects what the river has done in the past. It doesn't add anything new as a requirement.
Okay, so where it talks about two officers or one officer, that's all based on what was there previously?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as requirements for any other complexes in the area, would they be bound by the same ordinance that the river would be?
Yes, if they're in excess of 200,000 square feet in floor area.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Randy, did they indicate that they were not going to continue this service, the river?
We only heard that secondhand.
I would think it would be worthwhile as we go through this process and it's finally approved that we should definitely meet with the river to let them know what the new ordinance states and also get their input as to whether they think it's adequate, not enough, or too much. So.
Absolutely. Will do. Thank you.
I know that we have attempted to make contact on this subject as well as others.
Right.
Because we felt that we can contribute to the development of the project, and up to this point, we've been unsuccessful, but I'm sure we'll continue to pursue the security aspect as well.
Security at the river is really important. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So go ahead. So number 3, 4, 5, and 6, we can call on Bruce Harry, our
Right.
Public Works Director.
Right. And Bruce is going to be talking to us about 2 and 3 together.
Great.
Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Item number 3 today is the approval of an agreement for purchase and sale of Central Mix Riaz for our annual Riaz project. This is slurry seal that we put on our streets. Every other year, the city performs preventative street maintenance services on various public streets by applying the Central Mix Riaz, or it's rubberized emulsion aggregate slurry. Similar work was last performed in the fall of 2012 with the direct purchase by the city of the Central Mix Riaz from Petrochem Manufacturing through a piggyback purchase and sale agreement that PMI has with the City of Los Angeles for production and distribution of the Central Mix slurry. Chapter 3.34 of the Rancho Mirage Municipal Code, which is entitled Public Contracts, allows shared agency purchases in place of public project-specific bidding. The Director of Public Works, with consent of the city manager, must first make certain findings with respect to entering into a piggyback contract with another governmental agency. These findings are addressed on page 3-2 of my staff report. PMI is required in the city agreement before you today to provide 465,000 gallons of Central Mix Riaz over a 25-day period for the city's contractor to place on about 5.6 million square feet of public streets. The project schedule has changed since the writing of the staff report, and the reason why I'm presenting this to you today. In that original schedule, we had planned on commencing work on the Riaz starting September 29th and having all the Riaz in place prior to Thanksgiving holiday. However, I was informed by the general contractor that the Riaz that is to be placed on the streets will not be able to be done at the specific time because the equipment that is required to put this Riaz on the streets is unavailable until October 20th. The equipment that we need to use is currently being used by the City of Los Angeles, who stepped up their slurry seal program this year due to the threat of a wet winter. And they've acquired all the specialized trucks through mid-October. In addition, PMI, who supplies the Riaz, says their ability to supply the city with the product that we need for our project is strained as a result of the City of Los Angeles' contract. Therefore, both the contractor and PMI have requested that we postpone the start of our work till March 30th of 2015 or March of next year, when the needed equipment and the product are more readily available. So staff is recommending that we award the contract today for the purchase and sale of the Riaz to PMI, and that the council identify in the contract that the work shall be postponed until March 30th of 2015. Now, the second item on the agenda, item number 4, relates directly to this item number 3. Item number 4 is the actual award of contract for the contractor to place this slurry on our public streets. This item, item number 4, is for award of contract to Koch Armstrong General Engineering for the placement of the Riaz. Staff solicited a call for competitive bids on August 7th for the placement of the city-supplied Central Mix Riaz. 2 bids were received on September 9th, which are identified on page 4-6 of the staff report. Koch Armstrong General Engineering was the low bidder with a bid of $1,021,393.49. The engineer's estimate of probable construction cost was $941,000. The bid proposal submitted by Koch Armstrong, Inc. was reviewed and found to be responsive. The bid proposals were compared on an item-by-item basis and found to be competitive. Koch Armstrong holds a current and active contractor's license and received excellent reference checks. In my staff report on the bottom of page 4-6, this project, as I mentioned, was anticipated to start on September 29th and be completed by November 29th. However, as I mentioned earlier during my presentation on the previous item, the start of date of this project will need to be postponed to March 30th, 2015 for the same reasons stated in the previous item. The city received a letter from Koch Armstrong General Engineering, Inc., dated September 19th, 2014, agreeing to honor their bid prices till March 30th, 2015, and extending through the duration of the contract. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the contract with Koch Armstrong with a start date to be postponed till March 30th of 2015. So those are the two items, item 3 and 4. Those are my recommendations to award the contracts. We'll get the contracts executed, and then the start of construction will not start till March 30th of 2015. And that concludes on my report at items 3 and 4.
Okay. Richard, you had,
Bruce, I'm a little bit concerned about the start date, March 30th. I'm not sure what the dates are of the Kraft Nabisco this year, but normally it's around the first week in April. And that's really a busy time in the city, and to have our streets torn up for 2 months, I think maybe a little bit, a little bit too much for the city to withstand at that time.
Yeah, we did consider that. The project has a number of streets that are in the residential areas that could be done during that week of the craft, and then we'll switch out and do the arterials after the Kraft Nabisco is finished. So we can concentrate our work in the residential areas while the Kraft Nabisco is going on, so we don't interrupt any of the arterials, if that would be okay with the council. The reason for March 30th, that works good for timing with regards to weather conditions. We'd like to get the slurry down before it gets too hot, because then it becomes soft and tends to track. So the early spring tends to work pretty good, March and April.
Bruce, how long does it take for the slurry to dry so that the streets can be driven on?
Typically about 2 hours.
Okay.
It'll set up, and then we can get traffic back on it.
So even for the people who would want to attend the Kraft Nabisco, if they were doing their streets, they would have no problem driving out within 2 hours? And
Yeah, normally what we do is we notice the day that we're going to slurry their streets. If they need to get out, they'll park their vehicle on an adjacent street. We always have one travel lane up and down the street always open so they can access their properties. But if they do need to get out, they're given 48 hours notice to park their vehicles, which has worked really well. We've never had an issue in the past, and I think the people that need to get out will park their vehicles and then access their vehicles by walking to them.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Audience comments closed, and maybe we could go ahead and make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion
This is
to
going to be on
approve.
two of
What's that?
them. We'll be approving two at a time, these two, number 3 and 4.
That's what I was going to make a motion
Good.
for.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve items 3 and 4, subject to the change in the date as outlined by our Director of Public Works.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And while we're at it, why don't we go back and approve number 2? Was that already approved? It was already.
It actually was approved as part of my original presentation, and then we just talked about it some more.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Then moving on with Bruce to item number 5.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 5 is an award of contract for our annual custodial services. The Public Works Department currently contracts custodial services for the City Hall Annex, Library, and their city maintenance yard. The current contract has not been out to bid since 2009. Staff felt it was appropriate to release our RFP, request for proposal, that would be in the best interest of the city to make sure that we're getting the correct pricing for our services that we're paying for. A request for a proposal for custodial services was released on the city's website on August 8th with a submission deadline of September 3rd. The duration of the contract will be for 1 year and is renewable on a yearly basis for up to 4 years total. 2 vendors attended the pre-proposal meeting held on August 25th. Both of those vendors submitted proposals to the city on September 3rd. The first proposal was from KBM Facility Solutions. They are our current contractor. Their price was $107,700. The second vendor was Alley Incorporated, and their price was $223,080. Quite a substantial difference. The current budget for our janitorial services contract is $117,500. So the $107,700 is within budget. Staff reviewed and evaluated the proposals. on an item-by-item basis. Staff's recommendation is based upon criteria that was set in the RFP that reviewed proposal cost, ability to perform requirements with the proposed manpower, qualifications of their personnel, proposed equipment, past performance, references, and after-hours emergency response time. Based on staff's recommendation, the total cost of the annual custodial services will be the $107,700, so staff is recommending award of this contract to the lowest responsible bidder, KBM Facility Solutions. And I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
I do have a question. Where are we with the City Hall Annex when it goes out? Is it in this contract or out of the contract?
Yes, we're still required to maintain the sheriff's substation down at the annex. We still do some work on the facility that used to be housed by staff, but we are needing to maintain it through the first of next year. I believe January of 2015 is when it will hopefully convert over to the Rancho Las Palmas Shopping Center developer.
And Bruce, when they move, the chamber that is, we don't pick up their cleaning for the new facility?
That's correct. The contract for the annex portion will be terminated as part of this contract, so that will not be paid for any further after January 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on council? Any questions from the audience? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
And a second? Okay, please cast your vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Can I do a point of information, Madam Mayor? Bruce said he didn't think that item number 2 had a motion to approve it.
Yeah, I believe when Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Hobart recommended approval, he did not include 2 as one of the items, if that's correct.
Can we check with the clerk on that? I would move that we adopt the ordinance adding Chapter 8.62, Major Retail Center Security to the Rancho Mirage Municipal Code.
Okay, you have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Could you try your votes again for me, please? Thank you.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. And moving on to item number 6. And Bruce is going to be handling this also.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 6 is the notice of acceptance for the whitewater wash concrete slope protection Natina staining. And the mayor wanted me to speak about this. We've gotten a lot of compliments on what we did with the concrete lining in the wash. Sarah, do you have a couple of photographs? The concrete slope lining in the wash is put in to protect the slope from erosion during storm events, and the gray concrete lining is very popular with regards to graffitiing and things like staining. So what we decided to do was use a natural product called Natina, and it's a all-natural product using manganese and calcium, and it reacts with the lime in the concrete and causes the staining, so to speak, of the concrete to an earth tone color of the brown. This is a product we also use when we cut hillsides down along Highway 111. We used it in 2 of our hillside cuts, which makes it look more natural so you don't see that gray granite. This product was installed by Natina Products, LLC. The contract was for $89,618. It stained all the concrete lining starting from the Cathedral City limit near the Palm Springs Motors all the way down to Morningside Country Club and the concrete exposed lining around the Rancho Mirage Public Library. The work has been completed. As you can see, the staining has all turned the earth tone colors that we're all liking to see rather than the gray concrete. I have had numerous calls from various cities and associations that have concrete lining through their communities, and they were very interested in this product, and I think it turned out very nice. We've gotten some compliments. We did have one area of graffiti already, which we immediately sandblasted off and retreated, and as of today, it has been taken care of. We're asking the council today to accept the improvements and authorize the city clerk to file the notice of acceptance with the county recorder's office. Any questions? I'm here to answer them.
Any questions from council? Any questions from the public? Okay, then why don't we go ahead and someone make a motion?
I will make the motion.
Okay,
Motion that the city council accepts the subject improvements performed by Natina Products LLC and authorizes staff to record the notice of acceptance with the county recorder's office.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And moving on to item number 9. And
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report was put together by the City Attorney, Steve Quintanilla, and the city's Golf Club Council Subcommittee consisting of Mayor Pro Tem Hobart and Councilman Weil. So I turn it over to the three of you.
okay, Ted, it's you.
The Rancho Mirage Golf Club is very important to the city because we feel that it's an important amenity for our residents. And we're just very pleased to have negotiated the extension of this contract for an additional 2 years. Up to this point, it has been 1 year, and we were able to negotiate this. Mayor Pro Tem Hobart met with the Weston, and we've had discussions. We increased the membership fee, a de minimis figure of $5, going from $75 per year to $80, and likewise a very small increase in the rounds or the fee per round of $2, varying at a different time of the year, summer versus the winter. So we're extremely pleased. We have talked to the people that are the organizers and the main people involved with the golf club. They're quite delighted, and I would like to thank my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Hobart, for carrying the torch while we were off recreating. So I thank you, and a job well done, and we're all very, very pleased.
Can I add just a little bit now that the torch has singed my eyebrows? The only significant difference that's going to occur, as Ted said, there's a $2 increase in 2 categories, but for members of the club who have been a member through Rancho Mirage during this past year, they don't have to come and register again with the city. We will be given a list of all of those people who have been a member in the past that are continuing on, and we'll get their updated addresses and emails so that we keep track of who the city has in this club. Anybody who is new to the club must first come to the city, get from us a note that they take to the Weston that will ensure that they get the exclusive rates that the Weston gives to the members of the Rancho Mirage City Golf Club. So that's the only other addition. And Ted, I thank you for all the work you put into this. And then he and I had to argue over just dozens of things, but most of them were superfluous.
Richard?
Ted, question for you. With the transition last year to the new program, do you have any numbers which would give us an idea whether our membership increased or decreased over the last year?
It's remained pretty constant, around 1,100 to 1,200 members. And I can tell you the number of people and the number of comments you get are significant. Golf is a time-consuming and to a certain extent expensive game. And the Weston affords our residents the opportunity to participate in this without necessarily always belonging to a club, yet it affords them the chance to still participate and recreate. So it's well received, and the numbers are holding right around 1,000 to 1,200 members.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nothing from the council. Any questions from the public? Okay, well, let's, someone make a motion to approve? Maybe Dana?
I'll move that the City Council approve the replacement golf club program operating agreement with Western Mission Hills and approve termination of the existing operating agreement and authorize the city manager to execute both the replacement agreement and the existing agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much, and thank you both for all your hard work with this. I know our residents are thrilled, and it gives, as you say, an opportunity for the people who really want to get out there once in a while and not have to go to a great expense. So, thank you. All right, moving on now to action items, and number 12. And this is something that is going to be handled by David Bryant, I believe. It's the, pardon me? Okay, so this is something Randy's going to be handling, and it's a consideration of approval of the Rancho Mirage Observatory project at the Rancho Mirage Public Library.
David, did you know you were handling this? Yes or no?
I did not.
Okay,
Okay.
then I'll go ahead and do it.
But I'm happy to contribute.
Okay, great, thanks. Madam Mayor, members of the council, this is a unique and exciting project. This item represents for the city of Rancho Mirage. Think about this, the Earth is 5 billion years old, give or take a billion years. In all those years, this is the first time an observatory has been proposed, ever proposed, in the city of Rancho Mirage. So let me explain that. At the Tourism Advisory Committee meeting last year, Mayor Pro Tem Hobart had posed a question to the people that were present. He said, what kind of exciting project would you like to see in the city of Rancho Mirage? One of the attendees suggested that the city look into an observatory. Mayor Pro Tem Hobart suggested that I take a serious look at the concept. Sylvia Nino, my secretary and secretary to the city council, scheduled a meeting for us to visit Mount Palomar, and she scheduled a meeting with a man by the name of Dan McKenna. Dan McKenna is the site superintendent for the California Institute of Technology, Caltech, at Mount Palomar. So we drove up there, 3.5, 4-hour drive up the windy road. Mayor Pro Tem Hobart and I sat down with Dan, and we were explaining that we wanted to put in a telescope and an observatory close to our library. We could sense that maybe he thought we weren't serious. He's probably had a lot of yahoos come and visit him about putting up telescopes around Southern California. He did, however, give us a tour of the 200-inch Hale telescope that they have up there at Mount Palomar, which is terrific. He also relayed to us a fair degree of optimism about our library site, and he even recommended a particular Newtonian reflector telescope for our project. So then we asked him to visit the city's library and assess the site for us, and he is here today and he will present his findings. As city manager, I put together a project team led by our city council subcommittee, Councilman Charles Townsend and Mayor Pro Tem Dana Hobart. Our team also includes Library Director David Bryant, Public Works Director Bruce Harry, Senior Planning Manager Bud Kopp, and Isaiah Hagerman from our Finance Department. We've contracted with Mike Fontana. Mike Fontana Associates would be the city's project manager on this project. So as you watch Mr. McKenna's program today, you'll listen to his enthusiasm and you'll begin to get a feel for just how far-reaching this project can really be. There'll be nothing like it in the Coachella Valley or even close. You can think about this as a potential for a symbiotic relationship with the city's library. We've had astronomy lectures at the library in the evening time where young and old alike marvel at the universe. So it's our hope, Madam Mayor, that we can encourage Caltech, who owns and operates Mount Palomar, to partner with the city of Rancho Mirage on some academic level to better ensure that we reach the world of potential on this visionary project. So, Madam Mayor, if you could please ask Dan McKenna to approach the podium, give us a presentation, and I'm also sure that Councilman Townsend, Mayor Pro Tem Hobart, at some point will have some comments as well.
Okay. Well,
Dan?
come on up. Welcome to our podium and welcome to our city.
Thank you so very much for inviting me up here and sharing my excitement with you on this potentially world-class project. Let's see if this magic works. Can I get to my iPad screen, please? Okay, there it is. So let's talk about first the result of my survey when approached about this project. We came down and we measured what is commonly referred to light pollution up and down the valley in order to understand better how such a proposal might perform if we had the adequate equipment, instrumentation. So up there you see a light pollution map, and it's, you'll notice Europe over there, and it's very, very bright. And we go to the United States, and you'll see the East Coast and up the Beltway. It's a very bright area of the country. And as we head west, we start getting back to pristine dark skies until just outside of Los Angeles. So I have a network of light measuring equipment all over the world that is calibrated, and so I measure light levels routinely in order to address questions of sky brightness, and I have done so here. So for comparison, if we go to a place where the sky is pristine in that dark area, and we call that 1 sky brightness, and then if we go to a place that's twice as bright, let's just call it 2. Astronomers use crazy units like magnitudes per square arc second, but I think that is not the proper way to view this. So when I measured up and down the valley here, I measured brightnesses anywhere from 20 and 30 times a natural sky brightness to, at the library, about 10 to 11, 12 times natural sky brightness. In contrast, if we go to a place like where our beloved Caltech Institute is, we have sky brightnesses in this area exceeding 50 to 70 times. So we have a much nicer sky than in LA. As time progresses and we learn more and more about the universe, we find out that unlike past views where it seems not to change much over the periods of times of say a lifetime or so, that we now see that the universe consists of phenomena that spans down to fractions of a second. So for us, it has been a constant rediscovery of the sky. And at Palomar Observatory, one of our programs is scanning the skies, and we discover a new object about every 20 minutes. So there is a lot out there, and it is changing at an astounding rate. If we go back to one of these pretty pictures that we get from the Hubble Space Telescope, there we go. An external galaxy, you know, that's all made of gas and stars, and in the center that's probably a supermassive black hole, and we compare that to where we live. Well, not exactly Rancho Mirage, but in our neighborhood, we'll see that our galaxy also appears to be this flat kind of pancake thing. And there we go. And if we zoom up where we live, here we go. We're going to zoom on in. And just past a bunch of planets, and oh, there we are, what is called the big blue marble. And so you can run the sky around the big blue marble, and you'll notice that you see the constellations just familiar like you were here or someplace on Earth. And as you zoom back, now we're passing through the orbits of several planets, and zoom back farther in what's called a cosmic pullout. There's Venus there, you can see going around. Keep on going. You notice that the constellations aren't changing, which means that the stars are really, really far away. And as we continue to pull out farther and farther, now we start seeing nearby stars, and you can see the constellations all get distorted because we are now passing through the stars, and we keep on going, and there are more stars, and now we start to get into some of those external galaxies. There they are, and they're way, way, way out there. In fact, that's been one of the things that Palomar has contributed to, is the discovery of what that distance scale is. And then finally, if you go out there, there's the Big Bang. That is the frontier of the universe, and it looks strange and all that, but that is the echo of creation, and the sound that it made actually is embedded in that. So, you know, these are really exciting things, and quite often for even people within the industry to understand what's going on. And how we got there is through the use of telescopes, which we are proposing for Rancho Mirage. So if I can have the PowerPoint, that's not my PowerPoint, but I can talk about those. Those are a series of your classical dome structures where you put telescopes in. Of course, the dome is a way to protect the telescope and also provide access to the sky, and it can be built many different ways. We won't want to concentrate on that. But I'm wondering where my presentation is. Sometimes the magic works, sometimes it doesn't. Ah, there it is. Night at the office. Okay. Keeping up to date with the universe while in Rancho Mirage, I work a lot at night, and sometimes I sit there after walking between my office and the dome and contemplate the universe and all that. And so I had the pleasure of contemplating what it might mean to actually build a state-of-the-art facility unparalleled to none close by. Okay, so this was in collaboration with a library. We're in a desert, and libraries also always have been considered as an oasis of knowledge, collections of knowledge that go back thousands of years. They've always used the latest media conveyance, whether it be papyrus or microfiche, these days computer. And like Rancho Mirage, great leaders and philanthropists like Carnegie helped to establish most of these major public facilities. And it goes to say that in modern time, with the information increasing so fast, it's really, really difficult to keep up with. Now, the biggest book, of course, is the Book of the Sky, because what is written up there not only has our past, but in some ways our future written in it. So it's up to us to be able to access that information. So things are changing all the time, and we're learning a lot. Here is the comet that the European space probe is about to land on. They say it looks like a duck. I'm not quite sure I see a duck in that. I guess I can kind of see a rubber ducky. But these kinds of objects pass through our solar system all the time. Some of them have the potential to strike the planet, so they can always be very controversial and a topic that comes up in everyday conversations. we have a long history of the contemplation of the universe, so this kind of thing is at our roots. Telescopes have helped us bring the universe closer, and modern technology has expanded our horizons. That happens to be our proud Hale 200-inch telescope. We have been asked almost constantly by visitors, well, aren't you guys getting a little obsolete because of the way the city is getting brighter and brighter and, you know, making it harder for you to work? The answer to that is no. Actually, our telescopes are now being pushed to the limit. We're running them as fast as hard as we can because modern technology has so far exceeded what was done when the first observatory opened that we are getting data that is over 1,000 times better with each exposure. So we're actually doing more work than we've ever done before. And so we'd like to apply the same kind of technology to the Rancho Mirage concept. This is the CDK 700. It's a 28-inch Cassegrain Naismith, which means that instead of looking from behind it, you have ports on each side, so it can hold 2 instruments at each time. There is 2 of these telescopes in what's called Minerva. It's a planet finder. It searches for planets around nearby stars, and this is located at the moment in Pasadena, very, very bright skies, and it is used nightly to test a concept. It will be moved to Arizona later. There's the humble beginning of an observatory. It's not actually complex technology, cement and all that, but it has to be done right. You're only as good as your eye, and our eye in this case is a camera, so the observatory will be equipped with 2 cameras, one for taking long dim exposures and the other one for taking quicker exposures in color. There is the road to exoplanets. That's what it looks like within the clamshell enclosure. We're not suggesting that. So here is a short of exposure from Pasadena of an external galaxy in M51. You can see that it does quite well. And there's a great nebula in Orion. Once again, a telescope of that aperture with the cameras can really do some exciting stuff. So the sky is of classical interest. It captures the imagination of most. It's ever-changing, always something new. Literally, what happens in the sky can have a profound impact on the Earth, and what we'd like to do is present this as a unique concept of check out the universe from Rancho Mirage so that any interested person does not have to have a large degree of training, can come to the library and use the software that exists there, and it has been now developed to a set and forget level where you can program it in and walk away, and there's an app for that. You can even run it on your iPhone or iPad. So, for example, a school student could be operating the telescope from their house and taking data for a project, or a community member, or even one of the city council, if so interested, could bring up, as they program the telescope through simple commands, a sequence which will yield pretty pictures. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's absolutely remarkable information, and what an amazing opportunity we have to allow our public and our children, our adults, to tap into something that most people would never have the opportunity to do. So, any council comments? Dana?
Yes, if I may, I would like to add to some of what Dan McKenna has told us. First, I'd like to mention that when we had that meeting at the Westin over a year ago, and I had asked that question that Randy mentioned about, did anybody have any good ideas? for something new and different in the city. Marilyn Bauer, a local resident and a realtor, was the one who had shouted out the word observatory. And over the next month or so, a couple of months, I kept thinking back about that and thinking, no, it wasn't possible, and then thinking, well, yes, it might be possible, and then talking to Randy about it, and then we met with Mr. McKenna and learned that it was possible on a budget that made sense. For example, the telescope that Mr. McKenna has identified, which is one that he has described as being, you would never have to apologize for your telescope being inadequate, and that this telescope will cost just under $300,000 to something less than 300 even installed. We set aside 6 months ago or so $1.75 million to serve as a budget for this project should we move forward with it as we develop more information. The connection between the library and the deck that houses the telescope and the house that the telescope is in is very important for us to understand. The concept is that we will find some material, maybe Mr. McKenna has some thoughts on this, that we will find some material that we can either roll up or pull out or do something with for the interior of the library to give it a dome-like effect at the ceiling level so that we have that picture sort of the horizon and outer space that we have in most planetariums. Is it planetaria? Probably. At any rate, we feel pretty confident, particularly with the input that we've had from Mr. McKenna, that this can come to fruition. This is not a pipe dream, and it's not an expense that the city can't meet. The money that we've set aside is former RDA money. Fortunately, the library and the prospective observatory and planetarium are within that same district, and that money is available to us, which is a wonderful concept. But the idea is to have the library, the planetarium. As Mr. McKenna pointed out, I guess he has to us personally, or me personally, people don't walk into an observatory and look into the eyeglass. I think the statistics that Mr. McKenna gave us is, at best, 1 out of 6 will be able to say, oh yeah, I can see what you're talking about. Well, as we just saw demonstrated here, we can have the projection from the telescope be more meaningful to us, just as the displays that Mr. McKenna presented to us are much more meaningful. When we could see an entire galaxy turned and rolled and even looked at from a perspective that it looks almost like a fudge plate. It's a fascinating concept, and the ideas that we're going to be examining, and with the help of, hopefully, with Mr. McKenna and Caltech and Mike Fontana, who is intended to be our project leader on this, the developer, to help us build this, that we can turn the interior of the library into the planetarium, where people will have the opportunity of seeing the visions that unfold through the telescope. On the outside, where we're going to have the telescope in the building that houses it, we're also considering having a deck, a substantial deck that people can walk on, and that'll have 4 to 6 stanchions where amateur astronomists, I almost said astrologists, my gosh, my wife would have understood, but nobody else would have. The idea is to have these stanchions on which amateurs can place their telescopes in tie them down to give them the stability they need, because the information that we have is that there is a fairly substantial astronomy collection of people out here who are really into the stars and who have extremely good equipment. And we're hoping that we can develop this into a center for astronomers, amateur and professional, to gather. We're looking forward to having some of the leading authorities in the world, perhaps, if we can put together the relationship with Caltech that we think and hope is available. I understand from Caltech's perspective, they are excited about the thoughts of what we're doing here as we move forward with this project as being extremely unique, probably nothing like it, certainly in a small city, probably anywhere. Yes, large cities have planetariums, but nothing that comes from an area that is in need for academic achievement and development. We have COD, and there's at least one professor there that is significant in the field, is thrilled at the thought of us having such a project. We have the new high school, which probably does not offer a course in astronomy now, but may very well if we put this project together. The world of potential for the education of the Valley, for the education of our residents, and for the pride of our residents to know that we have a truly unique device and operation. It's got to be totally thrilling to most people to conceive of this. It certainly is to me. I'd like to thank Dan personally for taking Randy and me under his wing. When we were up there, we didn't know the questions to ask, and he helped us formulate and articulate the questions, and then he would provide the answers. And when he came down here a month or two ago, and he took light tests, I remember at the time, the next day, he told us that he had taken light testing at the Palm Springs end and the Indio end of the valley. Indio had I don't know what the right word is, Dan, but had a reading of 50. I mean, in the area of 50. Palm Springs had a reading in the area of 80. Rancho Mirage had a reading of 11, 10 or 11. The disparity between all of that was almost like a miracle hitting us that, my gosh, this is the perfect place. And we have the greatest library, small library, certainly in the state, if not in the country. We have it right next to it. It'll become a component of it. Just a vast world of opportunity. And I certainly hope that our council adopts the program and that we move forward with it, and that we move forward with it with Caltech as an associate partner of some sort. it's just thanks to you, Dan, we've gotten as far as we have, and we deeply appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dana. Any other comments from council?
I do. For those of us who grew up in Los Angeles and had the privilege of going to the planetarium and seeing the shows through history, I think, Mike, we talked at our meeting that there are programs that could be shown through history just like the planetarium. And I think that's fabulous to be able to see history in the skies as it was. That's another great benefit.
Thank you. Ted, any comments? Okay, Richard?
Question, really an exciting opportunity here. I heard a discussion of a domed facility talked about. Are we going to be building anything on the empty property adjacent to the library parking area?
That's a good thing. Randy, why don't you answer that, because that is something that's important here.
Yeah, you know, when we first looked at it, we assumed that we were going to use the 3 acres at the end of the parking lot. When we had Mike Fontana come out and take a look at it, and we realized that we're talking about a observatory dome that might be 16 or 18 foot in diameter and is essentially a prefab structure. Rather than using up that space, because we can save that for another use, we found a spot that's just outside the children's section at the library by the fire road there, adjacent to the Whitewater River Channel, that would be a perfect location for this. We wouldn't have to install new bathrooms because you could use the bathrooms that are in the library, and also it's adjacent to the community room, so people can go walk from the observatory and the deck right into the community room and be able to see on high definition television what the telescope's looking at. So while we originally thought that would be the right location for it, we've determined that right next to the library would be better, and to save that site for another use.
Yeah, sounds like it. The reason I raised the question is we've got a couple of residential areas adjacent to that empty lot, Thunderbird Palms, Thunderbird Cove, Thunderbird Terrace, and then also Sunrise behind it. So it may be worthwhile as we get through the project that we bring these people out to a public meeting, maybe at the library, and not only show them what the program's all about, but also alleviate any fears that they might have of something being built adjacent to the library that may create a negative feeling for them. So I'm just thinking that as the program goes forward, an education program with the residents in the area would certainly be worthwhile.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you so much. We also have a comment from someone in the audience, Richard Wood. Please come up. Richard is from Rancho Mirage also.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Richard Wood. I live in Rancho Mirage. My job is easy because I'm going to get to preach to the choir. This is a fantastic idea. I just read about it today, so I stopped everything to come here, tell you what I think about it. I believe that this wasn't well publicized, and if other people could have read about this, they'd be very excited. It's an opportunity to do something that's going to expand science. I can see all types of opportunities. I can see online access to this telescope where students could have a certain time where they could log on and they could do their own experiments and science projects. College of the Desert could use it. There may be a time that the city could make available to the general public in the valley where they could log on at a certain time and control this telescope and look at whatever they want it to. It's pretty neat. My understanding is the scope, it won't be optical, it'll be electronic, so that they won't be standing at the telescope looking through a lens. They'll be looking at the image electronically projected onto a screen or sent down the internet to their computer. That's my, and if you had a planetarium in the library, it wouldn't be the old-fashioned one with the light bulb in the center with the holes in it. It would actually be a projection system that would be showing you in real time what's actually going on.
Right.
Okay. The one thing that crossed my mind, and I'm 100% positive on this, is just to consider, perhaps, and I don't know if it's been done, is to measure the light. I don't want to change your project, but just to consider the Annenberg estate, which is very large and has nothing around it for a large distance. perhaps, since people aren't actually walking up to that scope to look through it, if you located it at the Annenberg Center, it may be much, you may find a level instead of 11, you may find a level of 5 there, because if you think about how much there is an unused space around that, there's a lot of space, and there isn't anything really large around there. It may be that at night, that certain other large light sources would make it different. The other point is that at the library, you've got a range of hills in the back there to the south that may block how far you can lower that telescope down. Whereas out at the Annenberg Center, you're more in the open desert area. You may have a wider range you can use. Now, maybe there could be some kind of a display saying this is what the telescope looks like, but it's really located for optimum performance. Because again, I don't see people walking up to it and looking through the eyepiece and saying, oh yeah, that's M51, thank you very much. They're going to be much happier looking at a screen. So the question is, does it make sense to even consider where you're going to locate that? Does it have to be at the library if there's a better place in Rancho Mirage that you can easily locate it? That's just something to think about.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
recommendation.
One point with respect to the Annenberg Estate, if we did it at the Annenberg Estate, there would be no way people could come and locate their own telescopes in the region there on the stanchions that we're planning on putting. And the Annenberg people are not particularly open to having anything where people are going to be walking around. You don't have to do it that way, I understand. We could have the telescope there. Period. Yeah, no, I follow you perfectly. And it's a good thought. It is darker. But dealing with the Annenberg Estate takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and nothing gets done without the trustees making... Just an idea. Yeah, and a good one. Thank you.
Thank you again so much. Any other comments from the audience? Any more comments from the council? Okay. Well, what a thrill it is to have Mr. McKenna here and to share with us the possibilities that we can have something like this, and that Dana and Randy have been so involved, and that Charlie's going to be involved soon, and it's just a thrilling opportunity. So why don't we have someone make a motion?
If I may. I move that the City Council Library Board of Directors endorse the Rancho Mirage Observatory project with the budget set forth in the staff report, and direct staff and the subcommittee to proceed with the project at the Rancho Mirage Public Library.
I second it.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. What a thrill. Yay. And thank you again, Dana and Randy.
Thank you very much for this, for the library as well. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay. All right, so now we'll be moving on to the next item, which is item number 13. And Randy, you'll be taking care of this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be turning this over to Johnny Almy, our Executive Coordinator. She'll be talking about Amendment Number 2 to the Animal Adoption Incentive Program.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council members. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon and to bring forward this proposed amendment. And as you know, the program started in 2009, and Mayor Pro Tem Hobart was very instrumental in getting that program started. In 2011, it was amended, and since that time, 118 pets have found their forever homes, and that's important not only to the residents of Rancho Mirage and to our council, but to myself as well. I have rescue animals, and they're just precious. The proposed amendment came forward by Mayor Pro Tem Hobart, I believe because there was a need. And as you know, we do have this incentive program. People are able to adopt a pet from Coachella Valley Animal Rescue or any of the 501c3s in the valley, but it only capped out to $100, and that was just for the adoption. But some of these pets that are rescued, they need vaccinations, they need to be microchipped, spayed, neutered, just like this young dog that came in today who, was basically, he's going to be able to find a home. But all those services needed to be done, and he needed to be microchipped because that is now something that has to be done for your pet. And a lot of people don't have that extra money to have those services, and if they want to adopt a pet, it costs money. And so what this amendment would do, it would give someone an opportunity to adopt a pet. They have the $100 that we would be able to help them, but it gives them an extra $200 for those services, for the spay, the neuter, the vaccinations, the microchipping. So it would cap everyone at $300. And we do have some money set aside. We have $5,000 we could do a budget amendment to help people be able to adopt these animals. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you so much, Johnny. That was wonderful. And it's nice to see you up here. Yes.
Just a bit to that, Johnny and I have been working together on this, and thank you, Johnny. And I think that's the first time I've heard you give a staff report, and you did it with aplomb and skill. I met with Fred Saunders of the Animal Samaritans. Their establishment is just across the freeway, north of the freeway in Thousand Palms. And what they have offered to do for us in this is anybody who wants to take their dog for any of a variety of services, they will provide services for them at this rate of charges, which is extremely good. Spay and neutering dogs, $85. Spay and neutering cats, $60. Rabies vaccination, $16. Bordetella shots, $16. DHPP, $21. FELV, $21. FVRCP, $16. No office fee. And they'll do microchipping for $25. Those will be the services that we would cover, up to maximum of $200 for such services. And we're hoping that this will encourage particularly that people spay and neuter their pets. Without spaying and neutering pets, dogs and cats, the anesthesia, but the euthanasia rates will continue to skyrocket. We've just got to bring the euthanasia rates down, and we're hoping that this program that the city is offering to our residents will motivate our residents to both adopt animals, but also if you already have an animal, spay and neutering, these rates we will reimburse as well. So we urge you to take advantage of the program and do what you can to lower the animal death rate in Rancho Mirage.
Thank you, Dana. Any other comments from council?
Just a question. Johnny, when you were going through your presentation, you said $300?
Yes, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it would be, if you were going to adopt a pet, we would reimburse the $100. But if that pet had to be vaccinated, it had to be spayed and neutered, sometimes they are already vaccinated or spayed or neutered, we would, in addition to the $100, cap up to $200.
Okay,
that's
so
if you were going to adopt.
The $200 would be for the services provided. The $100 would be just for the adoption.
That is correct.
Okay. And right now, we're just doing the $100.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments?
This program would be available to all residents of the city, all city employees as well. So just wanted to make that comment.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Okay, and thank you for clarifying that, Dana, because I think there are a lot of people out there whose animals do not have all the services that we are going to provide as far as vaccinations and spaying and neutering. And as you say, that is one of the most important part of animal control as far as the euthanasia. So I think this is something that we're all just thrilled that we can do something like this. So if someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion the City Council amend the Animal Adoption Incentive Program and approve a budget adjustment in the amount of $5,000 to broaden the scope of the program to include reimbursement for spay, neuter, vaccination, and microchip services up to $200 per animal, $300 including adoption.
Okay, you have a second?
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Charlie seconded.
Yes. Please vote.
I do have a question. Dana, where are we with feral cats? I know that, we have 3 that we took in and had spayed and neutered, but that's a big issue and a big problem, I know, in our development. Is there any way that people can have the feral cats captured? I know we captured them ourselves, bought the cage and took them in, but it is an issue with a lot of residents in Rancho Mirage. So,
Well, it's a giant issue. As a matter of fact, the animal shelter has advised that about 5% of the cats that they have for adoption actually find homes. And feral cats, when they're caught, well, they're caught by coyotes a lot, but when they're caught by animal regulation authorities, they get taken to the shelter, but you just don't want to be a cat in the Coachella Valley, probably anywhere else compared to dogs.
True.
You can be a cool cat, but, but I don't think there is an answer that's one that's satisfactory, Charlie.
yeah, well, we did take ours in when they were little kittens. They came to the door, and we did capture them, took them in, and paid $20 to have them done. And they clip their ears, which means that if we send out anybody to pick them up or anybody complains, they will not euthanize the feral cat. I just want everybody to know that, because they will clip the ear, and that neuters them. So that's what we did with ours.
Great. Good
Okay.
for you.
That is interesting information.
Better to
also.
adopt it, though, next time.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Any other comments? I think we have had a motion and a second, and we voted. So I believe the vote came in 5-0. So the motion carries, and we're all set with that. And now moving on to the public hearings, and item number 14. And this is Jeremy Heim, who's going to handle this for us.
Thank you,
Thank
Madam Mayor, members of the council. Good afternoon. For your consideration is appeal case number APP 14001. It was submitted in regards to the Planning Commission's denial of minor conditional use permit, case number CUP 14005. The purpose of the minor conditional use permit was to let remain a private basketball court, which was built without the benefit of city approvals. The subject property lies at 72280 Tanglewood Lane and exists within the Mission Ranch neighborhood. The applicant was given the development standards as they pertain to private basketball courts in January of this year. The basketball court, as it has been constructed, does not meet those standards. The Mission Ranch Homeowners Association is opposed to the project and has submitted 2 separate letters that, to that effect, both of which were attached to the staff report. In addition to the letters which were submitted by the Homeowners Association, 2 additional letters of opposition were submitted from neighbors within the Mission Ranch community. Again, both of these letters were attached to the staff report. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission's unanimous denial of CUP 14005 be upheld. I thank you for your time here today and would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Any questions from the council? Okay.
Jeremy, could you just briefly go over the applicant's response to discussions that we have had with them regarding this property?
Councilman Kite. Basically, when we were first contacted, the applicant wanted to ascertain whether or not permits would be required for a basketball court. The answer to that is yes. He went on to ask, as is often the case in such projects, whether building permits or planning approvals were needed for flat work. Flat work being hardscape walkways, concrete patios, pavers, stuff like that. The answer to that is no. There are no permits required and no planning approvals needed for flat work, and there are no setback requirements for such projects. At the conclusion of the conversation, what was relayed to the city and to the homeowners association was that the applicant was going to pour a concrete slab as a patio essentially, and would use portable or rollaway basketball goals when he wished to use it as a basketball court, and when he wasn't using them, he would store them away. So at the end of the day, it essentially acts as a piece of furniture on a patio.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Jeremy, what is it that is specifically not permitted in the area that the basketball, I guess the pole and hoops?
In the instance of a sports court, the entire court has to be set back 10 feet from all property lines.
Does that include the cement?
Includes the cement. Yeah, if it's a project that's built for the purpose solely of a sports court, it has to be 10 feet from the property line. For instance, when tennis courts are proposed, they have to be set back a minimum distance and also recessed at least 4 feet below the grade to mitigate noise and light and such. So that's the basis for the court. Any sports court for that purpose would have to meet the setback.
On page 14-3 of the original staff report, down at the last sentence on that page, it said Mr. Blue was told that no permits would be required if in fact he were to pour a slab and use portable basketball goals, ... Flat work does not require permits. How do you distinguish the flat work of the cement for the basketball court and the cement where chairs are going to be seated?
The entire slab was poured there was no slab there previously. It was a sand volleyball court. So the entire project was built as a new development. So we came to the conclusion that if you use the portable goals, that would be fine. But in the instance that he affixed those goals to the court as a permanent structure, then it triggered the need for a minor conditional use permit.
The photograph that's up there, does that depict this is the portable basketball hoop?
Those are permanently affixed to the slab.
I see. Now what's behind it to the right on the photograph is slab cement, right? Just on the ground level.
On the ground level, there's about 3 feet, well, 3.22 feet from the property line from the neighboring home.
Yeah.
And in between there is just DG, it's rock.
Okay, the 3.22 feet from the property line, that is or is not impermissible?
That should be 10 feet from the property line.
So it should be dirt up to 10 feet from the property line? It should be just nothing but dirt?
Well, correct. In the instance that he created this project solely for the use as a basketball court, yes.
Well, if he had created it for roller skating on it, would it be different?
Well, just going by what the code says, any development that's solely produced for a sports court has to be 10 feet from the property line. Now, if you're asking if, for instance, the whole backyard was concrete, and then he wanted to erect basketball goals at some location, well, we'd have to look at that in a different scenario. But the fact that he poured the concrete slab where there was none before for this purpose, basically is what we're dealing with at this point.
The thing I'm dealing with, and maybe Steve, I know Steve wants to say something, but when he was told that no permits would be required if in fact he were to pour a slab and use portable goals, flat work does not require permits. Is that that doesn't mean that he would be permitted to lay a cement slab up to the boundary, but rather only up to 10 feet from the boundary.
If he was pouring a slab just for the purposes of pouring a patio, there are no setback requirements. He could pour it all the way up to the property line.
So what he did is that he converted this from patio use to a sports court, which requires a permit because he has fixed hoops.
Correct.
That's
Okay, so it was the act of conversion, if indeed they were separated, otherwise it speaks for itself. But if he were allowed to pour a slab for anything he wanted, just for walking purposes, that would be okay, but he would have to be careful not to put in a basketball hoop closer than 10 feet.
Correct.
Is that right, Steve?
So if the recommendation the staff has is if he removes the permanent goals and just has the rollaway ones, then he doesn't need anything from us, doesn't need a permit.
That's correct.
So he has that option, or he has the other option is to comply with the setbacks for the sports court.
Correct.
So he'd have to cut.
He would essentially have to saw cut the slab back to the 10-foot setback line, correct?
So these are the city options. Where are the HOA options? Who controls what?
The HOA agreed to accept whatever the city requirements were.
The HOA said that they would endorse the project if it met the city's requirements of the 10-foot setbacks or the rollaway goals.
And their requirement is 12 feet, but they've acquiesced to cut it to 10 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Mission Ranch Homeowners Association has more restrictive setback requirements than does the city, but they agreed to give a variance in this case if the project met the city's minimum standards.
Am I correct that if the appellant, property owner, were to remove the permanent basketball stands and hoops and move them, or get a portable, we'll say, or otherwise move them in, they could still, according to the HOA and according to us, they could still allow the cement slab to go up to the property line? Or would they have to tear that out as well?
No, if they remove the permanently affixed goalpost from the slab and utilize the portable ones, then there's nothing else.
Nobody would care.
That's correct.
I mean, it may be a technical violation, but it would slide.
Correct.
Jeremy, he could also remove those from 3.2 feet to 10 feet and affix them to the concrete, couldn't he? They don't have to be portable.
Well, the court itself, the edge of the court itself has to be 10 feet if it's in fact used solely for a sports court purpose.
Okay. So he removes the standards from where they are now, puts them 10 feet from the property line and affixes them. He can do that also.
Well, they're currently affixed. I believe they're approximately 11 feet from the rear property line, and I think it's close to 20 from the side. So that the issue of where the goalposts themselves stand isn't really the issue. It's the issue that the slab encroaches within 10 feet to the setback.
I thought you said that was okay if you pulled the hoop posts
That's correct.
back.
But Mr. Kite, as I understood it, he asked if he affixed them permanently at the 10-foot setback,
Right.
would we allow it to stay as it is?
Well, why wouldn't we allow it if he moved it to the 10-foot? You're saying if he moved it to 10 foot and put permanent, made it a permanent hoop there, that he would have to then tear out the cement?
10 feet.
It's the slab that needs to be moved back.
Correct.
10 feet
It's the
if you have a
slab,
permanent goalpost.
not the
But
goalposts.
well, let me see if I understand this correctly. If he puts a goalpost in and it's a temporary goalpost, let's say a movable one, he can leave the slab alone.
Correct, yes.
But if he plants it, then he's got to remove the slab 10 feet from the property line.
Yes.
I mean, that sort of seems
Yeah, I
odd.
agree. I agree.
I mean, would the HOA agree? I mean, if he's going to have to move it, what do we care and what does the HOA care if he makes it a permanent or a temporary, as long as he doesn't move it any closer than that and just leave the slab alone, whichever it is?
Well, the issue per the municipal code is that any development, if it's intended for a sports court purpose, has to be 10 feet from the property line.
Okay, but now if he intended it to be for just an area to walk, then it would be okay.
Right. If the
I mean,
goals.
if he put it in today and he says, I'm going to put the goalpost in 10 feet and I'm going to now pave this over here, it's not going to be part of the basketball court, it's just going to be where I can walk. We're okay with it. I mean, we don't want to get hung up on if it's a temporary post, you can have the slab. If it's a permanent post in the exact same position, you can't have the slab. I mean, that's kind of inconsistent, although I do see the difference. And maybe the HOA is concerned that a temporary post gets moved, gets closer, but if it did, he would know that somebody would be shooting that, measuring it, and he'd be lost in this court of appeal.
Well,
But isn't
if
the
they,
HOA in control of this?
Huh?
Doesn't the HOA still trump whatever we would say?
Well, that's for them to decide. We're only talking about our
Yeah.
our
But
rules.
whatever we do, they still have the last word?
Whether they do or not, what do we care?
I
We
hear you.
only care about what our word is.
Okay.
the HOA has stated that they would go along with whatever our final decision was.
They stated that they would endorse the project if it met the minimum requirements as called out in the city's municipal code.
Steve, can we go ahead and allow him to move the post 10 feet out on a permanent basis and allow him to keep the concrete in?
You're the regulator, so yes, you can do
Well,
that.
it would make
But I
more sense to
understand-
do that.
Right.
I mean, that's my whole point. I mean, if we say, yeah, you can have your conditional use permit, if you make that a permanent thing that you can't adjust and when nobody's looking, move it back closer to the property line. If you make it permanent there, then it's permanent, and we can waive the requirement that he's got to dig up 10 feet of cement slab, which makes no sense.
Madam Mayor, you probably should go ahead and do the public hearing and then close it and then have the finish your discussion.
Let's see where they stand on it.
All right, we have a D. Lowell McGrain who would like to speak from Rancho Mirage.
And there's also a letter in the record.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Lowell McGrain. I live in Rancho Mirage, specifically Mission Ranch. I am on the homeowners board. Our concern is the fact that Mr. Blue took the option. He was given two options. One, he could put a patio and a portable thing that he could use when he wanted to use it. We don't have a problem with that. The city doesn't have a problem with that as far as your regulations. Or he could put in a sports court. But you do have a specific set of regulations that control sports courts. And what he's done is just done an end run around all your laws, all your regulations, your zoning, conditions. Threw in the slab, waited until the dust settled, slept in the permanent things. And Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he was told that if he put in permanent goals, he would be converting it into a sports court, which would then be illegal.
The only conversations I had were prior to him commencing or starting the work, and basically he was told what would be expected of him. And the next time I heard was from the homeowners association that the basketball court had been constructed and permanent goals had been installed. That was the conversations that I had.
Okay. There is one other item I would like to mention, and that is I didn't even know about this until the Planning Commission hearing, which rejected his application unanimously, by the way. He has also installed night play lighting.
Okay, why don't we just wait until you have an opportunity to come up and speak? Okay, go ahead.
That is, I was unaware of it, but it was brought to my attention by the next door neighbor, Dr. David Friscia, who sent a letter that you have a copy of. One of the members of the Planning Commission, before they unanimously rejected this scenario, was to say he hasn't done one thing right, but if he had wanted to put those lights in, he would have required an additional use permit, which he has never even asked for. From the homeowner standpoint, we are concerned primarily about precedent. I don't like to see people allowed to make a fool of the laws and the regulations. To be blunt, we can't approve it because we can't change our CCNRs practically, and it would require that for us to approve it. That's the association's position.
Okay, go ahead.
What you would have to do in that circumstance would be to seek an injunction against him or something from the court to uphold the CCNRs. Is that right?
To be honest with you, we have not gotten a legal opinion as far as what we would have to do because we hoped and presumed that the city council would uphold your own laws.
Well, with respect to the lights, that's not before us, is it? Or is it? Okay, the
Well,
light
it just
issue.
makes it one more step
Yeah,
illegal.
well, the light issue, the light issue isn't our issue. Right now, our issue is the slab and the permanency or the temporary of the basketball pools. If the city gave him a conditional use permit to make that temporary basketball stand a permanent one, it would have a dual effect. It would have the effect of the homeowners association not having to worry about him moving it in a direction toward his neighbor's yard, making it larger if he decided he wanted to do that. It would prevent him from doing that, which seems to me to be an appropriate thing from your perspective. It would also allow the city to say to him, you don't have to tear up the cement back there, which once you've laid it and it's part of the motif of the house and the outside, landscaping and so forth, you want to try to preserve rather than destroy something. I mean, from a council's perspective. Yes, it's given him a little something that the Planning Commission didn't think he deserved, that you don't think he deserves, and maybe none of us think he deserves, but maybe it's an out that works and brings peace and harmony, which is kind of what I'm aiming at. In other words, wouldn't you rather see him be required to put a permanent pole at that point where the temporary pole would be, instead of it being a temporary pole that he might inch back as time passed, or as neighbors changed, or whatever?
The problem I believe we're having here in the communication is that you're not accepting the concept that what creates a sports court by your terminology, okay, then means it has to have setbacks, it has to have this, it has to have that, et cetera.
Well, I read to you the thing that got me started on all this was here in the staff report. Mr. Blue was told that no permits would be required, in fact, if he were to pour a slab and use portable basketball goals. Flat work does not require permits. Yeah, you're right. It's language, but the substance of it is, are we going to make somebody tear up 10 feet of cement when we could achieve something a little bit better even though it's a violation, it may be a technical violation, you're saying what was in his mind. Suppose he passed a lie detector test and it said, question, did you intend when you said to your HOA that this wasn't going to be part of your basketball court, but rather part of your backyard, motif? And I don't know whether you can pass that or can't pass that, but is that what the whole thing is going to roll out to be and decided upon? It's just
the only thing he ever submitted to the HOA was a plan with drawings, with the foundation-mounted permanent courts or permanent goals from the sports court company of Los Angeles, with unacceptable setbacks and creating a sports court that was illegally close to a line by our regulations and by the city.
Let's stipulate
and
it is illegal. Let's agree to that because it is.
And we could not and did not approve that. And we can't approve it now.
But you can get an injunction against them if you wanted to go to that effort, and I know you don't want to, and I don't blame you. Who wants to go to court to tear out 10 feet of cement? But in the overall scheme of things, what's the difference of him being able to have the slab and a temporary goalpost versus him keeping the slab, although technically under this hypothetical, you're not supposed to, and putting a permanent post where the temporary is going to be? What is the difference to the HOA? What's the difference to anybody except him? He's got a shorter basketball court than he thought he was going to have. And by making it permanent, he can't inch it back when nobody's looking.
No place to inch it back now.
Huh?
It's so close to the...
Well, we're going to make him move that. I mean, if we did what I'm arguing about, I don't know that I'm 100% sold on my argument. I want to hear what my colleagues have to say. But it does seem like a resolution. Seems like a mediated resolution to a problem where somebody is getting away with a little something more maybe than he should. But then again, maybe not.
It's my understanding that the Planning Commission staff told him he had several options to be legal. One would be simply to tear out the permanent goals, go back to what he committed to in the first place, or cut concrete.
Well, listen,
obviously the simplest would be the first choice.
I'm sure that's exactly what staff said, whatever it is how you phrased it. But we're on an appeal process now that is beyond the staff's decision, and we can go any way we decide is advantageous. Unless, if we said to him, you got to put the permanent pole there back where the temporary pole is supposed to be, and you can keep your property, your cement. And he says, no, I don't want to move. I want to keep my permanent pole where it is. We say, okay, case denied, appeal denied, you're not going to get it. So why not just take the path of least resistance? Because he can easily keep the slab there by just making a temporary goal over there.
Mm-hmm.
And he can keep the slab. What do we care if it's a permanent slab or not? I mean, how does it change?
We can't approve it.
No,
because it would break.
I know. It would.
The Homeowners Association has taken the position, and I don't think there's any question.
I thought you said that you were going to agree to accept whatever the city council did.
We never said that.
Oh,
that was misquoted. What we did, if I may, the city said they had a requirement of 10-foot side setback, 10-foot rear setback. We have 15.
Okay.
For any construction, and quite frankly, that also includes a air conditioning condenser, that includes pool equipment, cannot be within 15 feet of the property line. That's our rules. That's in the CC&Rs.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we stop here for just about 5 minutes so we can take a little break and you can come back right back up to the podium and we can continue this?
Sure.
Okay, because I don't think any of us want to miss any of this.
Unless you're married, in which case you'd like to miss it all.
Yes, no, and if people would like to take a 5-minute break and kind of do whatever's necessary and stretch your legs. So you'll come back up here, Mr. McCrane, and we'll finish hearing from you. Thank you. Just 5 minutes. We're back in session. Mr. McCrane, if you'd like to come up and resume, and perhaps you can start wrapping up your last comments, and then we can, move on. And then that time, maybe Mr. Blue would like to come up and make his comments.
I think you're, Councilman Hobart, you're taking the position that if he moved a permanent goal 10 feet back, that would not make it a sports court anymore, which by your own regulations, it is still. But
And I agree with what you just said. I don't disagree with that at all.
okay, I would just like to clear up basically one thing that was either misstated or misunderstood. That basically, the Homeowners Association has never said that if the city decided to roll over and approve this, then we would approve it too. We can't without changing our CC&Rs, and I'm sure you have some idea of what that takes.
Right, and I appreciate you saying
Several
that. I was
years.
just under a misunderstanding, that's all.
The reality is, we said, when the city said that they only had a 10-foot setback, we had a board meeting and decided that in the nature of being a good neighbor, we would meet the city's requirement and waive the additional 5 feet.
I see.
So if he met the city's minimum standards, we would approve it. Short of any of that, we cannot approve it.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Okay, unless you have any questions, I'm through.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your input and for coming back up. Okay. Any other speakers in the audience that would like to make comment? Mr. Blue is here. Come on up.
Thank you all for listening. First and foremost, I wanted to start off and say that staff was, while we weren't always exactly in a complete alignment on our opinions and philosophies, they were excellent to deal with, professional and consistent. So your staff was not inconsistent or unclear with me at any time. Again, we may have had a difference of opinion and things, which happens anyway, but Jeremy did a great job, as did your others. And again, we weren't even in agreement every time, but I would say that. Second thing is on Mr. McGrane's comments, the whole reason why I've decided to make this a bigger issue than maybe all of your time is worth is because of principle. So the idea of what arena in which am I operating? Am I operating in the Homeowners Association arena, or am I operating in the City of Rancho Mirage's arena? The inconsistency, nobody's fault. Maybe through this case we can clean up the language to help everybody for the future to make it easier, might be helpful, is the setback for the goal versus the setback for the court, which we've obviously talked about at length here today. The city's rule, per se, is that if you have a patio, as we've heard many times, you're fine. And the Homeowners Association, which I've honored, is that the goal has to be 10 foot back from the property lines, which I've honored with the permanent goals. So I've honored every one of those situations. My decisions were made along the way based on a sequence of events. So I started the process with the Homeowners Association, with Christina, and I did not, and I was told that you did not have to have permits for this because we had a pre-existing larger volleyball court that predated my basketball court that was on the site. So I made a smaller basketball court to where a volleyball court was. The down-facing landscaping lighting was pre-existing. I did not put that in, so to refute Mr. McCrane's comments that I put lighting in is an incorrect statement, and I think I want the record cleared for that. And as it relates to the Homeowners Association, during the process, midstream during construction, when we were under construction and they stopped us, And during the process, I sent a letter to Christina, who represents the Homeowners Association, and I'll read it. On January 30th, 2014, Christina, as discussed today, we will now locate the permanent basketball goal on a 10-foot setback from the Clancy Lane property line. I will send the contractors back in the morning. This is when they said, hold on, you're not 10 feet. And we went back, and she said, Mr. Blue, thank you. Permanent record, January 31st, et cetera. The last thing I'll just say that's to keep it simple is maybe just for future, so that there can be beneficiaries from this from the future, so we can maybe get some rewards out of all this work, is that word sport court, and I've got a gentleman in the back who actually works for sport court, so he won't like that I'm saying this, but maybe take that word sport court out of it, because it might be confusing. And say, if you have a patio, you could have a 10-foot pole in the patio. Could be an umbrella, could be a basketball court, could be anything. And maybe that word sport court maybe should go away, because I think it confused, because you use the examples of you could roller skate on it, you could have a party on it, you could have other things. And lastly, on the goals and the fact that, are they better or are they worse than the temporary goals? And Mr. Hobart made a good point. In the temporary goals, they would be 10 feet plus all the time, could go all the way to the property line, and quite frankly, according to the law, stay the whole time. My permanent goals go down. You don't see them under my wall from Clancy Lane. They go down, and they're much less injurious to the environment, et cetera. And then lastly, just globally as a part of this whole thing, none of these laws I think are that bad, because we've never talked about water runoff or any problems that normally, these are just distances between, for the pole, which we've definitely met every rule, and distances from the patio, which we've met those rules. It's just, are we operating in the homeowners association, or are we operating in the city? And I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Sorry that we took everyone's time, but I do think principle and standards are important in life, and you should fight for them if you believe in them. And again, I just want to close and say that, again, even though Jeremy and I went back and forth a lot, I mean, we didn't agree all the time, and we probably at certain times weren't each other's favorite people. He was consistent, and he was honorable, and he represented the city of Rancho Mirage very well. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
I have a question,
Sure.
Mr. Blue. When you have the portable goals, do you have to take them in at night or move them?
No, you do not.
Then what would your objection be to just going to the portables?
Because I think the portables are more injurious to the environment because they can stay up. That's true. And they can be right against the property line. I think the law or the rules should be tweaked, because the goals that I have go down and are hidden versus, or more hidden than a full 10-foot plus goal that can go right up against another person's property. And by the way, the sequence of events that I mentioned earlier, at one time, Jeremy will remember this, we were talking about putting temporary goals in, and the temporary goal was against my next door neighbor on that side, one of the doctors that was mentioned. And we actually decided against it because when we put the goals lengthwise, they were 10 plus feet from Clancy Lane and 10 plus feet from my house and everybody else's house. So we thought that would be a better solution. I'm not saying Jeremy agreed with that. I'm just saying that was a more favorable solution to the environment and the process, and seemed to abide by all the laws. Again, operating in the city's law that you have to have a patio, and the homeowners association, which says your goals must be 10 feet from the property line. You
said you worked well with the city. How well did you work with the HOA board?
Well, I had a hard time with the HOA. My own homeowners association, then I had a hard time with it, but I relied upon information on January 31st from the homeowners association that said, go ahead. And that's why we proceeded.
They told you to go ahead?
Well, I said, again, I'll reiterate, Christina, as discussed today, we will now locate the permanent basketball goal on a 10-foot setback from the Clancy Lane property line. I will send the contractors back in the morning. Thank you. She said, Mr. Blue, thank you. Not stop, don't do it, whatever else. So, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, as you can appreciate, that's kind of ambiguous as far as her response is concerned. You know, as a businessman, I say, was she thanking you for your courtesy in acknowledging her letter, or was she saying, thanks very much, proceed. You know, there is that ambiguity there, which obviously is the reason for this debate.
Totally agree. And I would say that, again, I am within the rules of the Mission Ranch Homeowner Association to have those goals 10 feet from the property line. And there were discussions that said, just so you know, absolutely, that said, if the city blesses it, we're good. Those discussions absolutely happened. Now, that's neither here nor there. The fact is, I'm 10 feet, those goals are 10 feet from the property line, which is the only rule that the Homeowners Association in Rancho Mirage has, and I've honored that. Now the issue is in the city, this patio issue, sport court. Is it a patio? Is it a sport court? That, I think, is the city's issue. The 10 feet goals, that's, the homeowner says they're 10 feet.
I agree with you as far as the terminology on sports court is concerned. You'll get no credit for having that change in the future. There'll be no notation, but I think the point is well taken there.
Yeah.
I think that does require clarification.
Yeah.
However, that still doesn't remedy the existing issue.
And just in closing, I mean, you know, I'm new to town. I don't want to be a bad neighbor. I think the court we put in is, you know, the court is green, the grass is green, it goes away. There was one of the slides, if Jeremy could put it back up, the very first slide shows the volleyball court, which was a totally different color, which was larger, which was, quite frankly, you know, sand was blowing everywhere. There was big posts with lights on the posts that were brought down. I mean, I thought we improved it. And if you look at that picture, in that bottom right-hand corner of the red outlines, that's a big, white, larger volleyball court with lights that were up that came out. The landscaping lighting remained. I did not remove those. I didn't think I have to remove landscape lighting. And then that picture turned to a green court that is much more environmentally conscious and much more pleasing to the eye, I guess I'll say in my opinion, but probably in most people's opinion. So I don't understand the reason for the fight.
Mr. Blue, the portion of the slab that is within the 10 feet of your neighbor's property line or Clancy Lane, whichever, is that slab that you put in, or is that part of the volleyball slab?
Great question. So the slab, again, from the homeowner's perspective, is within the 10 feet, but that is not a homeowner's violation. So that would kick it over to the city, which would say, is it a patio or is it a sport court? And, you know, if you want to get real legal, you could unscrew those goals, and are they temporary or are they permanent? I mean, I'm being a little bit facetious, but the bottom line is the Homeowners Association only has jurisdiction in their bylaws that he mentioned over the 10 feet of the goalposts. It's the city's that's the slab, which again, if you had that clarification on sport court versus patio, it allows a patio. You can pave your entire backyard, which I've got a lot of grass that I water every day and keep environmentally conscious and all that kind of stuff. But so I just think it's a nuance that we kind of got tripped up on. And again, I think we've operated within the law in each of the arenas that we've placed ourselves.
The answer to my question is, it's volleyball or it's new slab?
So the volleyball court was sand, and it was larger.
It was sand?
Yes, sir. It was sand.
Oh, I thought you said it was cement.
No, the volleyball court was sand and larger, and then we put the slab patio in after.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And somebody else would like to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Miller, and I am a neighbor, and I was a previous board member. I did write a letter that's in your packet, and although I have no impact to this court, I'm not adjacent to it, I do want the precedent set, and I do understand our CC&Rs, that it's not the goalpost that has to be within, it's the permanent structure. It's the entire sports court. The sports court is 3 feet from the wall, or 3.22. The goalpost may be in, but the court is right next to the neighbors. And the one thing I don't want, because I have a nice home there too, and I do want to protect that my next door neighbor does not build a structure, a permanent structure, up against my wall, and that's why I wrote the letter. So I did want to clarify that everyone keeps on saying goalpost or whatever it is. it's the sports court itself that is inside the easements that is, that I'm against. Okay.
If I understand what you're saying, you're counting the slab as a structure.
It's a permanent structure with the attachments to it, yes, sir.
You're not referring to the poles themselves. You're
No,
actually referring.
It's the permanent structure. It's the entire court that is within the easements of our CCNRs. And I don't want something built up against my wall of my home.
Richard, on page 24, it shows the diagram of the entire court
Right.
being 3 feet, the entire slab being
Right.
3 feet.
Right.
You know, there's a couple, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Want to continue? Okay. There's a couple of things that bother me, and the fact that this, whether you call it a sports court or you call it a patio or whatever it is, and you use it for roller skating or you use it for entertaining or use it for basketball, there's a certain amount of noise that comes from basketballs being bounced on a hard surface, number one. But more than that, I remember in junior high and high school playing basketball and being hit in the head with a basketball. I believe that there have been a couple people that have mentioned that the balls have come over the fence. I would feel terrible if there was a child sitting there playing on the neighbor's grass or whatever happened to be next door and got hit in the head with a basketball. I don't know if that's something we need to consider or if it's irrelevant, but I think it's something that I would consider. And I think rules are made because of certain ramifications or certain requirements. I think certain rules should be clarified. I think certain rules sometimes need to be changed. But that's something that the homeowner association needs to deal with, and that's something that maybe our city needs to deal with, and maybe something that we need to clarify. Now that our hearing, now that if there's anybody else that has anything to say, since we are closing the public comments, maybe we could discuss this a little further and see what other people's comments are, and do we go back, let it go back to the homeowner association, or do we just try to mitigate it in whatever way possible? Because there are a couple of issues
Well, it
here.
seems to me like the being in a homeowners association, being on a board of a homeowners association, and going through issues right now that we are going through at Desert Landscaping, all the advice and everything from attorneys that have come to us are that the HOA is in control. And you can't go against what the HOA is unless, as he said, you change the CCNRs. That's what they're there for. And if we approve this, a precedent would be set, but does the homeowners association have to pay any attention to what we're doing? Can they just go back to him and say, I don't care what they said, you still have to do what we are saying and what's in our CCNRs? That's where I'm at with it.
Ted, did you have something?
Yeah, I would, Madam Mayor, I'd like the public comment reopened for a moment, because I'd like to direct a question to Mr. Blue, if you would. I'd like to ask him to come back up for a moment.
Okay, well, we'll reopen the public comments.
Mr. Blue, obviously there's a quandary here. We're dealing with terminology, and we're trying to also be practical. I think I understand where you're coming from. By the way, I lived on Clancy Lane a long time myself. But that's neither here nor there. If you were willing to saw cut 7 feet, or not even 7, is it 6? 6 or 7. And that would clarify the setback, irrespective of the ambiguity, whether the interpretation and all those things. your baskets would remain permanent, and unless I'm missing something, that would be satisfactory with the HOA, unless I'm wrong, because it would satisfy the setback requirement. It's not exactly what you want. Now, I understand that. You're taking part of the slab away. On the other hand, you're not shortening the court either. Yeah, you drive for a basket and you end up on dirt or something.
In the wall.
Well, but the wall's there now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not changing the wall. The wall's there right now.
Right.
It just seems to me that would be a potential solution, should you be willing, because obviously the HOA is, and I believe the city would be satisfied. So my question to you is, would that be an acceptable solution?
Before I can answer that question, it probably wouldn't, and here's the reason.
Would or would not?
Would not.
Would not.
Here's the reason. I don't understand, what does the HOA want? What do you want? You just want the basketball court gone, right? Because you think it's a structure? Is that what you said? Because we can take the permanent goals out. I'm not going to do that, by the way. And then are you acceptable then? We'll have the movable goals? Is that what you would want?
Yes, well, you know what, instead of you speaking to...
Right, okay, so the answer is, I can't answer your question because I don't know where the HOA stands. It sounds like they're trying to stop me in every direction. First of all, no basketball has no basketball has ever gone over the landscape wall into the other yard, not once. So that must have been another yard. The other thing is, when I moved into the neighborhood, I was told that the HOA was upset that there were basketball courts on driveways in front yards, and they didn't like the way that looked. So I spent the money to hide it and put it in my backyard and thought I was respecting my personal property rights and did it in a very nice way, which doesn't affect anybody else in the world. And I did the 10-foot goal setbacks, and I did the patio, and I thought I did everything right. And I'm just kind of wondering why I'm trying to get caught in every direction when it seems like I've checked every box.
If, and obviously we're trying to come to an agreement between the two. I'm not a mediator. There's somebody on this panel that is. However, if the HOA said yes, if Mr. Blue would cut that slab to 7 feet, your baskets are permanent, they would agree to it, the city would agree to it, and the issue was settled, would that be something
No, I would not do that, because what I would do before that, which again I'm not agreeing to do, is I would take the permanent goals out and put temporary goals in, but I believe they will lose and the neighborhood will lose because the temporary goals will be closer per the CCNRs that supposedly are so immovable. The temporary goals will be up against the property lines, and they'll be 10 foot sticking out over the wall in Clancy Lane versus a hidden permanent goal that goes down and out of sight. So what I would do is I would take the route of saying no, to answer your question, and I would move toward, I guess they would, I'm trying to wonder, I guess they would then say, your goals are permanent and that's acceptable, and now they're going to do whatever they're going to do. I guess I'm trying to understand, I'm in the city of Rancho Mirage, and what am I applying for in the city of Rancho Mirage versus the homeowners association? I think we're all kind of confused by that. And I thought I've satisfied both, but I've satisfied both in separate arenas. And today was a day to what I thought, to bring a clarity and explanation of why the sequence of events led to this situation. Because Jeremy will tell you that we started the process with a patio, with a temporary goal that was against the other neighbor's wall, that we decided against because it was not acceptable. And so we said, let's just get 10 feet from everybody, which we thought checked the box. And then I got Christina's, again, whether I interpreted it that way or not, she didn't say don't go forward. And so the answer to your question is, so I don't want to waste anybody more time, is no, at this point right now, I would not agree to cut that slab, because the slab without the goals is acceptable according to the city of Rancho Mirage. And the goals separate from the slab is acceptable to the homeowners association.
Okay. I understand your position. Our position is trying to satisfy the majority of our residents to the best of our abilities. And
I just didn't, and I know I'm not supposed to speak to them. I don't understand what the homeowners association is so upset about. The rules, the CCNRs, when, again, my kids have played basketball there 3 times. The lights have been on twice. This is in 8 months. Those lights, by the way, were already there. Why wasn't this dealt with the CCNR and the volleyball court? What happened with that? So anyway, that's just factual things that are relevant. I'm wondering what's going on with me versus the previous situation.
all right, thank you for the answer.
Scott?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Todd. I was really a little bit confused with your conversation with Jeremy. You said you understood his position, but you didn't agree with it all. I mean, his position was what the city's position
Yeah,
is.
and I honored the city's position. So to be clear, we said, and again, Mr. McCray Lowell said, we were definitely told that by the Homeowners Association, Gary Whitaker, and other people that sit on the board, that we'll accept it if the city blesses it. So then I went with Jeremy down a pathway, which, by the way, relied upon information from Christina at the Homeowners Association that said that those 10-foot goals, she didn't say that that was unacceptable. And so then we had the patio. So again, when I say with Jeremy, I was complimenting Jeremy because he was not ever disrespectful. He was honoring the rules, and he gave me ideas and advice. We went back and forth with each of those, and we agreed to disagree on certain things, but he could see where our struggle all along was, does this belong in the city of Rancho Mirage, or does it belong in the Homeowners Association's hands?
And when you built the courts, you were building them with the understanding that you were doing what the city asked you to do?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you,
Steve,
Todd.
would you like to make some?
You know, first of all, there's no definition of what a sports court is.
Right.
But it sounds like, based on the interpretation of staff, if you were able to unscrew those goalposts, pull them out, put them in the garage, they technically would be mobile and not affixed.
Technically,
Then
yeah, if you want to get technical.
Move back, you wouldn't have to cut back the concrete. I mean, is that my understanding? He was able to remove those, unscrew them, pick them up, and
I've got
in
the
the
gentleman
garage.
from Sport Court here that could tell you that. But again, for full disclosure, yes, you could remove them and do that. But who wants to do that? We can put them down and they're out of the way versus a temporary goal, temporary in quotes, that can be rolled away. But according to the law, you can leave in place and it's visible to everyone, where mine is not visible. But it's a good point you make.
Todd, what's the difference in the height?
In a temporary goal that would be there the whole time.
Right.
So that would be 10 feet plus, you know, call it 6 feet of backboard, so 16 plus feet that would be seen from Clancy Lane, versus my goal that rolls down that probably would be a total of 9 feet at the top of the backboard when it's pushed down, which is at or underneath the top of the landscape wall.
Okay, so while you're playing, the height is no different.
Well, you raise it up while you're playing, and you put it down,
raise-
just as you would, by the way, with a temporary goal, right? You're going to play on a full-size goal when you play basketball, unless you want to have your kids play dunk basketball on the low goals or something, which is fine.
So both goals go up and down?
The temporary goals, arguably, I don't know if they go up or down, but I probably could buy some that could. But again, there would be no protection to the Homeowners Association if those goals went down or not. You wouldn't be, according to the CCNR that's so immovable, you would not be allowed to be forced to buy temporary goals that were pushed down. And again, I think the court that we built is, I'm just wondering what the problem is with the Homeowners Association other than the CCNR situation, which again dictates the goal. And is the basketball court a structure? And what denotes a structure? That's new information to me today, that a basketball court is a structure.
Did you understand why the Planning Commission rejected your appeal?
As I understand it from Jeremy, he had to reject it because he was interpreting the law because of the sport court language versus patio. Anything else?
And when you came to the city, did you come with the idea of building a patio?
Well, my
Or
kids
did you
roller
come-
skate and skateboard, and we have parties on it all the time. So what denotes a sport court and what denotes a patio?
Well, okay.
Todd, do you think if you were able to sit down with the board over at your HOA that you could come to some sort of an agreement on what they would require? And what you
I would really hope so. I've tried to ask them many times to come to their meetings. They've never been able to move them. So I think we should do that. I think that would be great. I mean, I think that obviously I've abided by the laws of the city, and so now, again, what arena are we in? Are we in the city? Today I know we are. And where are we with the homeowners association?
Okay. All right. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for all your input. And we will now close the public hearing. And,
Harris.
oh, okay. You want to come back? And this is Mr. McCrane again.
I'd like to just clear up a couple of things. Number one, I would direct your attention to section 17.30.230 of your code. And chapter 1748 refers no tennis courts or sports courts. And basically sports courts are pretty well universally understood as a basketball court. Shall be located closer than 10 feet to the nearest property line. That's your rule, not ours. As far as Mr. Blue's question, what would that we wouldn't be happy with anything, we want him to tear his court out, that's absolutely incorrect, to use a nicer word than I'd like to use. We don't care if he has a basketball court. We don't care if he has a sports court, as long as it's built legally and is permitted. We would be happy and we would accept if he saw cut back to where he should have been in the first place for 10 feet, because your own regulation doesn't say anything about where the goal is. It says sports court, specifically to hold the noise away from the neighbors. We would be happy and sign off on it if he saw cut at 2 existing required minimum setback. We would also be happy if he left it right where it is and put in legal, and they are collapsible, by the way, portable goals. We'll sign off on either one of them. I'm the vice president of the association. That's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Now we're, yes?
No,
Okay. Well, as long as there's no one else that wants to come up and speak, we'll close the public session. Is there anyone else on the council that would like to make comment? Richard?
Oh, Madam Mayor, I think we have an opportunity here that maybe the parties can get together and resolve this issue. So what I would like to recommend or move is that we continue this item to the next date in the future and allow the two parties to get together and see if they can resolve this issue.
Okay. You're talking about the next.
Okay,
Yeah,
second meeting.
Let's do it. Yeah, and that'll give them almost a month to discuss it and see if they can come up with something.
And maybe we can have Jeremy involved in that meeting too, to just clarify the city's position.
Okay, Jeremy, that sounds good to you?
That'd be fine with me, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so everyone, please vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. And we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is something that's going to be taken care of. No, Okay, this is item number 15, and it will be addressed by our Associate Planner, Greg Tuesdale.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and council members. CUP 04 is a telecom facility proposed at the Highway 111 fire station facility for the Verizon Wireless Company. It's an unmanned facility. The city fire station is located at 7801 Highway 111 on a 2-acre parcel abutting the Thunderbird Heights development. There are 3 existing homes behind the property that front onto Boot Hill Road. As proposed, the 1,000 square foot lease area is 120 feet northeast of the fire station building. The 60-foot high monopalm antenna is planned abutting the existing 19-foot wide service driveway. The antenna is about 128 feet from Highway 111 and 54 feet from the rear yard wall. Slide 4 shows the lease site, which includes a 195 square foot, 1-story prefab building, an emergency generator, the monopalm, and an 8-foot high masonry wall. The height of the building is 10'6", which is 2.5 feet higher than the wall itself. The right-hand side of the slide shows the top view of the monopalm with the antenna array and the fake palm fronds. Condition 7 requires the standoffs to be 3 feet from the monopalm pole in order to bring the antennas closer to the monopalm for better screening. Slide 6 provides elevation views of the monopalm and the live palm trees. Pursuant to the Planning Commission meeting, Condition 20E, a total of 4 California fan palms are needed to screen the antenna array. And adjacent to that are existing 40-foot high jacaranda trees. The left side slide shows the view from Highway 111. As mentioned in the report, a second wireless provider can be involved with this, so we did show that, and those antennas would be inside the trunk itself. This was the photo of the materials board, so you can see the various materials, the proposed bark, PebbleTech exterior. So these are standards for a monopalm type facility. For monopalm, staff asks that the applicant provide photo simulations. So this is basically looking northwest from Highway 111. This slide from Highway 111. Next one is basically behind the project, looking from the Boot Hill inside the Thunderbird Palms development. This side would be from the opposite direction. If you came in from Thunderbird Road at the signal using the existing driveway, so you're looking towards the fire station. I went ahead and took a picture of the existing palm that's located at the Children's Discovery Museum because it's a similar type design, although this one has some upgrades to it, but that's the one that was built, I believe, last year. SmartLink conducted an outreach program with the homeowners of Thunderbird Heights in September 2013. This was a flyer, so it's in your package. At that time, they were showing live palm trees, as noted in the report. So that was what they saw in their flyer. Since that time, there have been some minor modifications, so the conditions reflect some minor changes, but it's still consistent. And I did, on a couple different occasions, keep the HOA apprised of what was going on, as well as the Planning Commission meeting, and they have endorsed the proposed conditions as provided in your packet. The Planning Commission reviewed the project on August 14th. We had the open forum. Nobody spoke against the project, just the applicant spoke. That testimony is in your packet in the minutes. Therefore, based on the Planning Commission's recommendation, you have before you recommendation for approval with the findings and conditions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Greg, if I have a couple questions. The picture you had of the Children's Museum monopalm, Did that have the additional fronds added to it, or was that the normal amount? Because I think we talked about having additional fronds.
You're correct. Actually, I've done a lot of research on it. Traditionally, you're looking for 60 to 80 to really provide a good cover. So what I did on this particular one is a lot of times, like you can see in this exhibit, that the vertical antennas, they usually like to keep them out about 5 feet from the monopomb itself. And the research I found is they can do it down to 3 feet. So what I did in this one was try to push them back towards the pole. Normally they do 10-foot fronds, and you're correct, we're asking them to definitely, so at the last meeting they said they could put the antennas closer to the monopomb at 3 feet, and yes, they would put in more fronds to disguise the antenna array. So you're correct, that's what we're hoping to get, a better one than this one that's proposed. There's one that was built, I guess.
And that's condition number 7, right, Greg?
The standoffs was number 7, yes.
Okay. Also, this Barbara Sato from SmartLink had mentioned that should a second wireless provider want to use the monopomb antenna, the City of Rancho Mirage will need to lease that new provider a site so that they too can install an electric building with a support generator. How much space does a generator need?
Well, actually, what she was conveying to the city, and she's correct, their lease arrangement is for that 1,000 square feet. So she was indicating that, because our code encourages co-location, she's saying we'd have to lease next door to it another 1,000 square feet so that that other provider could have its own facility and building, generator, et cetera, but they would have access to the monopomb. So she's just clarifying that the second provider is not going to come in and use their building. That's not the intent. So she's just making that clear, and that would be a normal situation. The problem we've had is that this new concept that we've been trying to make happen, to date, we really don't have any monopombs that have dual service on it. So this one, if it's built per the lease agreement and approved today, would be the first one. They'd put the pole up, provide the, so on the pole itself, I think the antennas were shown at 40 to 46 feet, and those would be inside the monopomb for the other provider. But the city would have to sign another lease with another provider for an adjacent site for their facilities.
Okay, and do we have a space available adjacent?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Would we have to purchase that?
Actually, they would have to come before you with a separate lease agreement showing where their preference would be. And then, as we did on this one, we asked the facilities director to examine the site, make sure they were happy with where the facility was. Fire personnel, since it was across the driveway, they were okay with it. So I'd venture to say that it would probably be to the west of this proposed area for a possible another equipment building. That would be my guess. Because the nice part is you have that existing wall on Highway 111 that already exists, the meandering wall with the landscaping. And so that's kind of why Verizon, well, SmartLink and Verizon, picked behind the wall by the service road so it can't be seen from the street.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Greg, I'm not sure whether you covered it or not, but did you discuss any kind of maintenance on the site?
The maintenance, you mean for their building and their lease area, or for the pole, or?
Any additional maintenance that's required, landscaping, any requirements such as that? Are we being asked to cover that, or are they going to cover that? Or?
Actually, it's gone back and forth. The last thing I saw, because it's supposed to be buttoned up when the final lease is signed. Currently, they're required to maintain everything unless they, and that's the legal department with the city manager's office, provides, because there has been some discussion on the maintenance of the live palm trees. So it'll be up to the final lease agreement to determine if we do help them in any way, such as just charging them. One of the ideas was, since the city has to pay for tree maintenance, one idea would be is that the city at the same time would maintain their palms and back charge them for that fee. That was discussed, but the final lease would clarify that in its entirety. So it's been discussed. That's the only thing that would be discussed. Everything else they have to maintain: the pole, the building, anything inside the lease area. They have to maintain everything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Does that help? Okay, Bruce, would you like to?
Yeah, Greg, I just wanted to confirm, does this approval include the rerouting of the conduits that I requested on their map that I work with Robert on, City Attorney's Office?
They included those exhibits, and I think they're including those in the lease agreement.
Okay. And then with a possibly another carrier, will they co-locate in the same locations for electric power? I mean, I'm wondering if we can get them to put some additional conduits in the ground so we don't have to tear up the road another time if there is another carrier that goes in there. Do you think they'd be willing to do that?
But it is true, the run that they were proposing was, you're right, it was some 500 feet around the back of the building, so it was quite a length of, I mean, that was their preferred alternative. I guess you could ask, Barbara's here to represent Verizon. It probably makes sense. I would think maybe they would install it now, because you're right, it would make sense, and then I guess we could back charge the future provider on that additional cost.
Yeah, really just the putting of the conduit in is very minimal when you have the trench open, but it does get disruptive to the fire station if someone's going to have to go back in there a second time and reopen the trench.
That's true.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Pardon me? Public hearing is now open. If somebody would like to come and speak. This is Barbara Sato. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Sato. I live in Walnut, California. I'm representing Verizon today. Greg has been pretty thorough in his staff report, and the staff report itself was pretty lengthy, so I won't regurgitate that to you. But I did want to address a couple of the items that you just brought up. First, about the picture of the palm tree that Greg took and the fronds. Greg, I don't know about that particular palm tree, whether it was a Verizon facility or not. Each carrier has a variety of manufacturers who create these trees. So I can't speak to that particular one. However, the manufacturer that Verizon uses has a feature that if you've ever paid attention to these trees, they've got a triangle that holds the antennas in place, and it's got a horizontal bar that hold the antennas, and a vertical bar that actually the antennas are installed on. This manufacturer can put some fronds on those horizontal bars that will also extend the fronds beyond the face of the antennas. So by bringing the antennas back and then putting these, not only the 60 to 80 number of palm fronds, plus these additional fronds, it'll have a really a natural look because the fronds all grow at different lengths anyway, and screen the antennas a little bit better than what that particular one had. And that's would be our recommendation to Verizon to do that, to tell their manufacturer to do so.
Okay.
Got to remember all your questions. The maintenance. The maintenance is typically landscaping is taken care of by the landowner. The reason is that the sprinklers are all hooked up to the landowner's sprinkler system, as opposed to Verizon coming in and putting in its own water meter and sprinkler system. With that said, that is part of the lease agreement, and I believe that the discussions have been for the city to do the maintenance of the live trees, because there's a synergy into doing all the landscaping at one time as opposed to, a second landscape company coming out and doing it. But it is part of the lease and wasn't addressed in our zoning application.
Would you agree to us maintaining the area and then charging you back on them?
I can't personally agree to that. There's my associate is the one who works with the city and the city manager's office to do that. But it's certainly on the table to have the discussion about.
Thank you.
Maintenance. Oh, the second carrier. When we build these facilities, you can see that on a regular palm tree, monopalm, we have the antennas on the outside, and there's 12 of them, and they're about a 9-foot side to a triangle. When a second carrier comes in on a palm tree, they need to be able to install their antennas within the trunk of the palm in order to make it look more natural. I'm sure you've seen plenty as you've driven around where they've attached the antennas to the outside of the palm tree. That can still be done. And if that's something that's agreeable to the city at a later date, certainly can happen. There is a limited amount of space inside this trunk, so not every carrier can put every single antenna inside this trunk. The remedy for that is if a carrier comes, has an express interest, wants to do this particular design, and their antennas don't fit, the pole can be removed and a second pole can be installed that would have a much larger girth and be able to put the antennas in there. There are antennas that will fit in this tree, but I can't speak to when the carrier would come, what antennas are available, and what will happen at that point, if the occasion even arises. But it is being designed to have that part of the trunk being manufactured out of RF transparent material, so the antennas would operate inside of the trunk. Is there any other questions? Oh, you asked about the conduits. I throw those to the lease also, and that would be great.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions?
Yes, I do. What is your time frame for commencing construction if on this particular permit?
So we, once I leave here, I'll be able to tell Verizon exactly what we've got approved, and we can start putting together the construction drawings, and which means we have to order the tree, get the manufacturer's information, and be able to submit for plan check. At the same time, the lease has to be finalized, and it will also be coming to you at a public hearing. I don't know which department handles that, so I don't think that's been scheduled for a hearing yet.
Actually, the lease was approved in April, and the final workings just go to the city attorney and Randy Binder, the city manager.
Oh, okay.
So the terms
There won't be
have
another public
been
hearing.
preset with some minor allowances.
Okay. So if we could get the building permit and the lease finalized, we would like to start before the end of the year. After that point, I can't say.
You would do that forthwith, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
The problem that we have had in the past, whether it be with Verizon or anyone else, as you can appreciate, is we go through the process, permits are issued, and then nothing is done. And we have done that. I don't know how many permits we have now out that are scheduled to expire, but it's many. And I don't think that there's one person sitting up here on the dais who has not received numerous complaints, as you know, from our residents about cell reception. And of course, in order to defend the city properly, we have to explain that we have approved a number of permits, but the telephone companies have not followed through and completed the construction. So I, for one, am troubled with having a 12-month period to, as it says in here, approval shall be effective for 1 year after final action by the City Council. From a personal standpoint, I think that's too long, and I think that 6 months is appropriate based upon what you've also confirmed is that you're ready to go. I see no reason to have 12 months because all it does is languish there. And so from a personal standpoint, I think the time frame is incorrect if we were to go ahead and approve the permit.
I believe that the time frame is associated with any conditional use permit that's approved. Is that right, Greg? I don't think that was particular to this cell site or cell sites in particular.
It's a standard condition is correct. And actually, I think you have some timelines in your final lease agreement that are less than that.
Mm-hmm. So in this instance, I think the lease would be the driving, would drive the time frame. But I do want to address your larger statement about approving permits and then cell sites not being built.
Okay, just before you answer the larger question, Greg, do you see a problem with 6 months versus 12 months?
Well, if because with your final lease, if they don't perform, the lease expires, and that basically expires the use permit, because they'd have to come back before. But, I mean, to me, I'd leave the year in, because they may have some problems, but the lease could expire, and that expires their use permit unless they get a new reauthorization from council. So they're because it's a city site, and I think that was the original intent of some of the discussions with the lease agreement was, and you're right, because about 40% get built, 60% don't get built. That was one of the terms. So the council said you need to go through the CUP process, and then I believe it said 180 days to build it, is my recollection.
Thank you, Greg.
There's a lot of reasons to go forward on a cell site or to not go forward on a cell site. I can't speak to every single one that you've approved that hasn't been built. I do know that I have had sites approved in the city that when I walked away, that the conditions were so onerous that even though I accepted them at the time, the carrier said, we're not going to do that. That's too much money. We don't want to build it. It's not worth it to us, and let the permit expired. There's other ones where I mentioned, if I can get this built by the end of, if I can get construction by the end of the year, I'll start going. The carrier's pocketbooks are like anybody else's. We have a budget that we run on. When the money's gone, the money's gone. So the money that they've allotted for this year, those are the projects they're going to build. If the projects that don't get their approvals in the necessary, and I'm using a year as the end of the year as an example. I don't know exactly when the date is. But if the projects that don't get built in that time frame for that bucket of money, they won't be built. They may come up a year from now before the conditional use permit expires and apply for a building permit at that time because another bucket of money came up. Or it could be that they relook at everything and see which sites they got on air. So this is a different reason. Which sites do we get on air? Which sites do we still need on air? And since we've brought these new ones up, how does that affect the sites that did not get built? Because when they're doing their planning, it's all done by modeling. And models are great, but they're not 100% perfect. Models don't take, they take the topography into consideration, but they don't take that topology into consideration, which is all the tall trees, any buildings that get built, things that happen between now and then, and all of that. So it's an art. It's not a science.
Excuse me. You've answered the question. I mean, you can't just keep talking.
I'm sorry.
I want to ask you a question. You said that there have been times in the past when we have given you permission, granted permission, but the conditions were so onerous that the company decided not to process it.
Yes.
Would you give me a copy of every letter that you have sent to us notifying us of that fact, that the company
I don't believe a letter's ever been sent over to you.
I don't think so either. So you're saying it now, but there is no evidence to support it, and you sat on it all that time.
I'm sorry, I'm speaking about, I was asked a question about why a cell company wouldn't build it. I'm not
I
speaking
understand
for-
what you were asking.
I'm not speaking for Verizon in that case.
I'm only picking at a point of what you said.
Mhm.
I'd like to know why you haven't notified us, say, we can't do it, these are the reasons we can't, goodbye. Not once have you ever done that.
I don't, you know what? I don't know that a
Well,
carrier's ever done. Well,
okay.
okay. but-
Anyway, I've said all I have to say, so.
All right. Ted, did you want to continue on?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Obviously, this is a situation that we've come up against as far as things being approved and not being built.
Mhm.
Our residents are not happy about it. We feel that we've wasted a lot of time waiting for these things to be built, and they have fallen by the wayside and they have expired. I wanted to mention to Greg and ask him maybe, we have, at this point, you can see on page 1531, 21 that have been approved and constructed. We have 11 that have been approved, never constructed, and have expired. We have 2 pending. How much more do we need to really satisfy the need in our immediate city? Would you estimate, or maybe Randy can answer that? How many more do we need? We've got quite a few.
I'm sorry, I would hesitate to say that an RF engineer could answer that, just because of the change in technology. I mean, if I would have stood before you 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to foresee the demand and capacity that's necessary today.
But we have specific areas where we're having terrible problems with reception.
Sure, and it goes to the lay of the land, the hills and dips and valleys and all of that. And the fact that there's a lot of residential areas.
Okay.
So as the technology evolves and becomes more, a lot of times, not today, and not on this project, I've had huge turnouts by population that said, we don't want this in our neighborhood.
Okay.
And that has been I've had people say that in Rancho Mirage also, I can't remember exactly which project it was, because they didn't want it in their neighborhoods. People are gradually accepting this to be in their neighborhoods. There's different designs that are being used that are worked out in the right-of-way. So there is a lot of change in technology.
Okay. So you're saying that you think that this project, is this a go? I mean, with what?
My understanding is this one's a go.
Okay, and what would preclude it from being a go?
You know, if
I mean, are you going to
It
go
does-
back and say, you know, this is what the city has approved, this is what they're willing to accept? When are we going to start with this?
I don't want to project something that would not happen, but I will say that there has been times that any particular carrier has gotten caught up in a buyout or a sell-off or, you know, a merger, and things stop.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for that answer, and I think that, Ted, did you want to continue with something, or we're going to close the public?
When you're concluded, I will.
Okay, thank you so much for all the information.
Okay.
And we'll close the
Thank you.
public comments and hearing. So,
No, unless there's further comment, I will be happy to make a motion incorporating my prior comment about the time frame.
Okay.
Unless one of my colleagues has additional. The comment will be, if the motion is made, to reduce the time. Basically, it's on 1512. The approval to be effective for 6 months, as opposed to 1 year.
That's condition number 1.
And that's based upon, as I mentioned, not to be redundant, the number of permits that have been issued without a follow-through.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right, please vote. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Well, we'll move on to item number 16. And this is consideration of environmental assessment case, and will be handled by Bud Kopp, our AICP planner manager.
Thank you, Mayor Smotrich, and good afternoon, council members. Do we have a slide presentation? Okay, the purpose of hazard mitigation planning is to identify policies and actions that can be implemented over the long term to reduce risk and future losses. Mitigation plans form the foundation of the city's long-term strategy to reduce disaster losses and break the cycle of disaster damage, reconstruction, and repeated damage. The Federal Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 requires local governments to adopt a comprehensive hazard mitigation plan in order to receive pre-disaster mitigation grant assistance and increased federal funding after a disaster. Following Hurricane Katrina in late 2005, the California State Legislature passed AB 2140, which is known as the California Disaster Assistance Act, which became effective January 1st of 2007. Compliance with this Assembly bill is optional, but non-compliance limits the city's ability to obtain additional state funding for certain disaster recovery projects. This is the way this works, and this is the way it works when federal officials declare a disaster area. The federal government pays 75% of the disaster costs, and the rest of the costs are shared by the state and the city. The city pays 6.25%, and the state pays 18.75%. However, if we adopt the local hazard mitigation plan as a part of our safety element of our general plan, the state will pay 100% of the costs of the non-federal share for 11 specified federally declared disasters. It also opens up the door for the city to apply for pre-disaster mitigation funds for hazard mitigation planning, and these grants are available on an annual basis. The pre-disaster grant program was set in place to reduce the overall risk to people and structures, while at the same time also reducing reliance on federal funding if an actual disaster were to occur. Your planning staff began preparing this local hazard mitigation plan in the fall of 2011. We attended several meetings with the Operational Area Planning Committee, which was a group consisting of representatives from various federal, state, and local jurisdictions, special districts, including school districts, nonprofit organizations, businesses, various tribes in the valley, and the public. The plan was crafted in close cooperation with Riverside County and represents a unified and coordinated effort for all cities within the county in the event of disaster. By law, this hazard mitigation plan must describe the type, location, and extent of all natural hazards that can affect the city, describe the city's vulnerability to these hazards, include a mitigation strategy that provides the city's blueprint for reducing potential losses, and contain a plan that, a maintenance process. Our plan, for example, identifies public buildings and valuations, maps vulnerable areas due to various natural hazards such as earthquakes, liquefaction, flooding. It identifies at-risk structures with the potential for large gatherings such as convention halls and theaters, and lists senior assisted living projects where additional assistance or resources may be required in the event of a disaster. Our plan also discusses our annual quake preparedness outreach, and an example mitigation measure is the Frank Sinatra all-weather bridge replacement project currently going through planning and environmental review. In December of 2011, we submitted our draft plan to Riverside County Fire Office of Emergency Services, since they were lead agency in this multi-jurisdictional plan. And in June 2012, the county forwarded our plan to the California Emergency Management Agency and also FEMA for review and approval. Staff was contacted for additional information in August 2012, which is why our annex is dated August 2012 on the right-hand side of the screen. And 20 months later, in August of this year, the city was notified that the plan was finally approved by FEMA. So this project has been in the works for about 3 years now, and I'm very happy to bring it to you this afternoon. The city has 1 year to adopt this plan and provide a certified copy of the resolution of adoption to FEMA, demonstrating that the project has been approved and incorporated into the safety element of the general plan. This proposed general plan amendment represents a planning study, and we recommend that you find that a categorical exemption is acceptable under CEQA. The Planning Commission did review this information and considered the staff report, held a public hearing on August 14th, and unanimously recommended approval of the categorical exemption and the local hazard mitigation plan to the City Council, and staff would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bud. Any questions from council? Okay.
You did a great job on the plan. How often do you have to renew that?
Well, it's my understanding that the last time we did this was in the early 2000s. I'm hoping that we don't have to do it for a while, because it takes 3 years to get through the process. I think it's a 5-year plan, actually. So I don't think that we're going to have to do it for a while. I will let you know. We did this in-house, by the way, without the use of consultants.
Good job.
Very nice.
Bud did a great job on this. He has been working with the county and FEMA for 3 years. The most important thing is that adoption of this allows the city to be eligible for full state and federal reimbursement in the event of an emergency and a disaster or catastrophe. It also allows us to apply for pre-emergency grants so we can upgrade the infrastructure of the city.
Correct.
Thank you, Randy. No other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, public hearing closed. Will someone like to make a motion? Or, okay.
Let Chuck do it. I hereby propose that the City Council approve of an exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act 15308 for EA 110007, and to adopt a resolution for general plan amendment, case number GPT 11002, appending a local hazard mitigation plan to the city's general plan.
Okay, and I will second that. Please vote.
Did I hear a ding?
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. And we will move on now to Steve, and he'll give us a
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council at this point is going to recess in a closed session to consider one anticipated litigation item pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, along with a pending case known as Brian Harrison versus City of Rancho Mirage. And the council will also meet with its real property negotiator regarding property identified as APM 684240001.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you all for attending. We'll see you next time, and have a lovely evening.